Children's Picture Encyclopedia. Children's Picture Encyclopedia by Steve Parker. Introduction. How many bones do you have in your body? Which is the highest mountain? How do gears work? If you like asking questions like these, you are sure to enjoy this book. The Children's Picture Encyclopedia is packed full of all kinds of interesting facts. You can read about the stars and space, and the world we live in. You can find out about animals and plants, and the amazing machines around us. At the back of the book you will find a list of useful words with simple explanations. There is also a selection of helpful websites where you can find more information on many of the topics covered in this book. Our planet. Our home is called planet Earth. From far away in space, it looks like a huge blue ball. This is because seas and oceans cover nearly 3/4 of its surface. The land that can be seen appears green and brown. But often much of the Earth's surface is hidden by wispy white swirls. These are clouds. Beneath them lies the Earth we know, with its mountains, plains, valleys, rivers, and lakes. Days and seasons. The ground we stand on seems still, but it is actually moving all the time. The Earth spins around once every 24 hours. This gives us day and night. The Earth also travels right around the Sun, once every year. This gives us the seasons. Seasonal journey. The Earth travels at more than 93,000 miles an hour in its journey around the Sun. As it flies through space it doesn't spin straight up, but is tilted at an angle. It is this tilt that gives the northern and southern parts of the Earth their summer and winter. Sun. Earth. Equator. Northern summer. Northern winter. Southern winter. Southern summer. The seasons. We have spring and summer when our part of the Earth leans toward the Sun. We have fall and winter when our part of the Earth leans away from the Sun. The area around the middle of the Earth never tilts very much, so it is warm and sunny here most of the time. Cold at the top and bottom. The top of the Earth is the North Pole. The bottom is the South Pole. These places are the polar regions. Here it is cold all year, with lots of ice and snow. Sunrise, sunset. Every day the sun seems to rise in the east, travel across the sky and set in the west. But it is really the Earth that is moving, not the sun. Where the Earth turns to face the sun it is daytime, and where it turns away from the sun it is night. Hot around the middle. Around the middle of the Earth lie the tropics, where it is always hot. Some tropical places are dry deserts. Others are very wet, and are covered by rainforests. Inside the Earth. Our Earth seems very hard and solid, and it is, but only on the outside. Inside, it is a mass of hot melted rock that slowly swirls around like honey being stirred. Earth layers. If you could cut the Earth open like a giant apple, you would see different layers inside. Just as an apple has a core in the middle, so does the Earth. Crust, outer layer, made of hard rock. Core, center, made of iron. Mantle, middle layer, made of melted rock. Hot jet. Sometimes water underground comes into contact with hot rocks inside the Earth. This makes the water heat up. The water may flow out on the surface as a hot spring. Sometimes the water gets so hot it boils and shoots out of the ground as a jet of steam and spray. This is called a geyser. Hot springs. Some countries have a lot of hot springs, and people use the water for baths and to heat their homes. In Japan, monkeys called macaques have discovered that bathing in these springs is a great way to stay warm in winter. Drilling holes. We dig mines to find coal, metal, and precious jewels. We drill holes to find oil and gas, and to study the Earth. Some holes go down more than 6 miles deep. It would take you 3 hours to reach the bottom in an elevator. Different rocks. As we dig into the ground, we see many different layers of soil and rocks. The deeper we dig, the older the rocks get. Some formed many millions of years ago. Volcanoes and earthquakes. The loudest explosions are made by volcanoes. They blast out smoke, ash, and red-hot rocks. Earthquakes are not as noisy, but they can make the land shake so much that the ground cracks and houses fall down. Erupting volcano. When a volcano blows up, or erupts, it may make a terrible noise. Smoke rises high. Pieces of rock shoot out, some as big as houses. Red-hot melted rock, called lava, pours out, too. As the lava cools, it hardens. Deep under the ground, a volcano forms where hot liquid rock bursts up through a crack or hole in the Earth's surface. Sometimes the lava just pours out of the volcano and flows down its sides. But if the lava gets blocked, the volcano may explode in a huge cloud of dust and ash. Volcano. Lava. Did you know? If a volcano goes to sleep and is inactive for many years, it is called a dormant volcano. But it may wake up and explode at any time. Giant wave. Sometimes an earthquake at the bottom of the sea pushes up the water into a huge wave. When the wave crashes onto the shore, it can destroy whole towns. The giant wave is called a tsunami. Earth shaker. An earthquake makes the ground wobble and shake. Buildings and bridges fall down, roads crack open, and rail tracks bend. Electricity wires, gas pipes, and water pipes break. There is a great danger of electric shock, fires, and floods. Weather. Will it be hot, cold, windy, or wet today? People like to know what the weather is going to be like, so they can plan their day. But for pilots and sailors, a weather forecast is even more important, since bad weather can be dangerous. Finding out. Weather experts measure the temperature, the speed of the wind, and how much sunshine and cloud there is. They use instruments on the ground and balloons that take measurements high in the sky. Weather balloon. Rain, hail, and snow. Clouds are made up of tiny water droplets. When the droplets fall to the ground, we call it rain. If it is cold and the water drops freeze into balls of ice, it is hail. When they freeze into ice crystals, they are called snow. Clues from clouds. We can often tell what the weather is about to do from the shapes and colors of clouds. If they are very high and thin, it will probably be fine and sunny. Low, dark clouds usually bring rain. Blowing. When air moves gently along, we describe it as a breeze. When it blows very fast, it is a gale. If it gets any windier than a gale, it is called a storm or a hurricane. Winds this strong often blow trees over and cause damage to houses. Did you know? As you go higher into the sky, the air gets much colder. People in an airplane are warm and comfortable, but outside the plane it is colder than a kitchen freezer. Storms and floods. A big storm can be frightening. The wind howls, lightning flashes, thunder booms, and the rain pours down. Some places have storms like this every few weeks. Spinning wind. A tornado is a small, fast-moving column of spiraling wind. It is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Inside the tornado, the wind often moves almost as fast as a plane. Did you know? Some tornadoes are so powerful that they pick up bicycles and even cars. Objects are sucked up high inside the tornado, before being thrown out at the top and sent crashing to the ground. Thunder and lightning. A thundercloud is very tall, with a wide, dark base. Lightning is a giant spark of electricity, made when winds cause hail and water droplets in the cloud to bump together. The spark makes the air so hot that it explodes. This is the sound of thunder. Seen from space. High in space, weather satellites look down on the Earth. They take pictures of the clouds and weather below. The swirling cloud in this picture is a violent tropical storm called a hurricane. Too much rain. Some storms bring too much rain. If all the water can't flow away down drainpipes and along streams, it will flood the streets. Cars can be washed away and homes can be badly damaged. Mountains and valleys. The highest places in the world are the tops of mountains. Between them are low, deep valleys. Mountain slopes can be very steep. Sometimes rocks and boulders come tumbling and crashing down. This is called a landslide. Low down. Most valleys have a river along the bottom. The flowing water gradually cuts away the river bed and makes the valley deeper. Some valleys have steep sides and are called canyons or gorges. Deep, dark caves. Sometimes a river flows down a crack in the ground. Over thousands of years, it wears away the rock and makes a big cave. Some caves are so big they could swallow up the largest football stadium with room to spare. Shrinking mountains. Most mountains are millions of years old. But every year the wind, rain, and ice slowly wear the rocks away. Tiny pieces slither and slide down the valley sides, where they are swept away by rivers. Slowly the mountain becomes smaller. On top of the world. The tops of mountains are usually cold and windy, and covered by ice and snow. They are often hidden in clouds. The highest mountain in the world is Mount Everest in the Himalayas. It is nearly 30,000 feet tall, 17 times taller than the highest skyscraper. Some mountains are actually growing taller each year, even if only by an inch or less. Making mountains. The Earth's crust is made up of lots of rocky plates that fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. These plates move slowly over the Earth's surface. If they bump into each other, the rocks can crumple together and push up new mountains. Layers of rock crumple up like paper. New mountains form. Grasslands and deserts. Forests grow in places where there is plenty of rain. If there is less rain, grasses are the main plants. Where there is almost no rain, sandy or rocky deserts can form. No rain left. Deserts often form near mountains. The rain falls on high ground as moist air rises up one side of the mountain. There is little or no rain left for the lowlands on the other side, which turn into desert. Rain cloud. Desert. Endless grass. Grasslands are wide and open, with just a few trees. The grass provides food for many different animals. The grasslands of Africa are called the savanna, and they are home to elephants, zebra, and wildebeest. Seas of sand. Some deserts are rocky, with boulders and stones. Other deserts are sandy. The wind blows the sand into tall piles called dunes, which look a little like the waves on the ocean. It is very difficult to travel over the soft sand. Plant survivors. Most deserts get very little rain, and only a few tough plants are able to grow there. Many desert plants have sharp thorns, or spines, to stop animals from eating them. A cactus stores water in its wide, thick stem. Did you know? The world's biggest desert is the Sahara Desert in North Africa. But the driest is the Atacama Desert in South America. In some parts of the Atacama, it hasn't rained at all for 100 years. Woods and forests. A wood is a place with lots of trees and bushes. A forest is similar, but bigger. Woods and forests have lots of wildlife. Trees are home to many different animals. Mixed woods. Places with mild weather often have mixed woodlands of many different kinds of tree. You can tell the trees apart by their leaves, fruit, and bark. Lots of animals, such as bears and deer, live in mixed woods. Cold forests. In the far north, it is cold and snowy for half the year. The most common trees here are conifers. They have needle-like leaves and often have branches that slope down, so the snow falls off easily. Animals such as caribou, wolves, and bears take shelter among the trees. Tropical forests. Tropical rainforests grow in places where it is always warm and wet. Many rainforests animals spend all their time in the trees. Orangutans hang by their long arms and swing through the branches. They feed on fruit, leaves, bark, and some insects. Wildfires. In very dry weather a forest might catch fire. This could be caused by lightning or people being careless with matches. It can take up to 100 years for the forest to grow again. But some plants have seeds that only grow after a forest fire. Redwoods. The tallest trees in the world are coast redwoods. Some of these amazing trees measure more than 330 feet high, which is taller than 50 adults standing on top of each other. Rivers and lakes. Where does all the rain go? It flows as water through ditches and drainpipes, and into streams and rivers. These may carry the water to ponds or lakes, or all the way to open water. Life of a river. A river begins where many small streams come together. It then begins a long and winding journey that usually ends at the ocean. Many streams begin as springs. A tributary is a small stream or river that joins a main river. Streams may begin where the snow and ice on a mountain begin to melt. These wide loops are called meanders. Sometimes a loop gets cut off and becomes an oxbow lake. The part of the river that meets the ocean is called an estuary. Rushing rivers. Rivers high up in the hills usually rush and gush over rocks. Some rivers have waterfalls. The water pours over a cliff, formed by very hard rocks, and splashes into a deep pool underneath. Water life. Rivers and lakes are often full of life. There are water birds, fish, frogs, snails, worms, and insects such as diving beetles. Most of these creatures live among reeds, rushes, water lilies, and other plants. The largest river. South America's Amazon River is not as long as the Nile in Africa, but it is far bigger. It carries 1/5 of all the world's fresh water. Waves and seashores. The edge of the land where it meets the ocean is called the coast, or shore. Many kinds of plants and animals live here, and people often visit the beach for their vacation. Rocky shores. Some coasts are rocky. Rain, wind, and crashing waves slowly wear away the rocks. Sometimes the rocks are worn into strange shapes, such as arches, and tall columns called stacks. Arch. Stack. Sandy shores. Some coasts are sandy, with wide, flat beaches. On sunny days people go to the beach to play, swim, sail boats, ride jet skis, and surf. Most people do not realize that many animals live in the sand, including worms and shellfish. Up and down. Twice each day, the ocean rises at high tide and then falls at low tide. The difference in height between high tide and low tide can be as little as 3 feet, but in Canada's Bay of Fundy it is up to 55 feet. Moon's gravity. Tides are caused by the moon's gravity, which pulls on the water in the seas and oceans as the Earth spins around. This makes the oceans bulge up in a high tide and causes other coasts to have low tide. Low tide. High tide. Pull of the moon. Danger at the coast. Along some coasts, there are rocks just under the water. Ships and boats must take care not to crash into them. A lighthouse warns of the danger. Did you know? In some places the coast is made of very soft rock. The waves wear it away so that houses and even whole towns will gradually fall into the ocean. Seas and oceans. Almost 3/4 of planet Earth is covered by seas and oceans. This is why the Earth looks so blue when seen from space. Coral reefs. Where the water is warm, clear, and shallow, coral reefs may form. Tiny coral creatures make little cups of stone around their soft bodies. When they die, more coral creatures do the same on top. Gradually the reef grows. Reefs also attract hundreds of colorful fish. Silver shoals. Thousands of fish and other creatures live in the ocean. Some live around the shores. Others live out in the open water. Large groups of fish are called shoals. New islands. Beneath the waves, the seabed is a lot like dry land. There are mountains and valleys, deep caves, and even volcanoes. Some undersea volcanoes grow so big that they break the surface and become islands. Australia. Underwater mountains. Pacific Ocean. North America. Under the waves. To explore the ocean depths, you need a submarine. This is because the deeper you go, the darker and colder it gets. The weight of all the water above also makes it difficult to move around. Did you know? The deepest place on Earth is the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean near Japan. It goes down nearly 7 miles. The tallest mountain would easily fit into it and still be underwater. Earth in trouble. The Earth is rich in useful resources, from coal and oil to many kinds of metal. It also provides us with water to drink and air to breathe. But we are using these resources up fast, and human activities are even changing the Earth's climate. Digging up land. We dig up coal from deep mines underground and open mines on the surface. Some open mines are bigger than 100 football fields. All this digging destroys the landscape and the homes of wild animals and plants. Melting glaciers. Frozen rivers, called glaciers, are beginning to melt because the Earth's temperature is slowly rising. This extra water will make the oceans rise higher and cause flooding. Saving water. A lot of the water we drink comes from rain, but we also use water from underground lakes and wells that have taken thousands of years to fill up. Some of these wells have already run dry. Using oil. These nodding donkey pumps bring oil to the surface from deep below ground. We use oil as fuel for our cars, and to make plastics, paints, and thousands of other useful things. But if we are not careful, we will soon use it all up. Why the Earth is getting warmer? Recently scientists have noticed that the Earth is getting warmer. They think this is being caused by greenhouse gases. These gases, such as the carbon dioxide we make when we burn oil and coal, act like the glass of a greenhouse, keeping the sun's heat in and making the Earth warmer. Only a little heat escapes. Greenhouse gases trap heat in sun's rays. From past to present, historians and archaeologists are like detectives. They study the remains of ancient buildings, documents, tools, weapons, and even the bones of people and their animals. From all these clues they can build up a picture of what life must have been like a long time ago. They can also learn how the ideas and inventions from the past have helped form the world we live in today. Long, long ago, when our planet Earth began, there was no life. Huge storms with lightning, thunder, and floods went on for millions of years. Rivers, lakes, and seas filled with water. Then came the first living things. Life begins at sea. The first living things developed in the ocean. Ammonites had snail-like shells and soft bodies that looked like miniature squid. They searched in the mud of the ocean floor for food scraps. Ammonite fossil. Life moves onto land. About 380 million years ago, some ocean creatures began to wriggle onto the shore. Over millions of years, some of them changed and were able to walk and breathe air. Others, including the horseshoe crab, have hardly changed at all. Horseshoe crab. The dinosaurs. By 200 million years ago, dinosaurs ruled the land. Some were giant plant eaters. Others were the biggest, fiercest hunters ever to walk the earth. One of these, Velociraptor, had massive hooked claws to catch its prey. But 65 million years ago the dinosaurs died out. Razor-sharp claw. Velociraptor. The Ice Ages. A few million years ago, the world became colder. Ice covered much of the land. Mammoths and other animals had thick fur to keep warm. These cold periods are now known as the Ice Ages. Mammoths. Did you know? We find out about animals from long ago by studying their fossils. These are the remains of bones and shells that became buried and turned to stone. The first people. The first people gathered fruit and berries for food, and hunted wild animals. They moved around a lot, never staying anywhere for very long. Then about 10,000 years ago they started to settle down in villages. They built huts, planted crops, and kept farm animals. Cave paintings. About 30,000 years ago, people painted wonderful pictures on the walls of dark caves. The pictures showed animals such as deer, buffalo, long-horned cattle, and horses. Early people. The Neanderthal people were a lot like us. They used fire and made tools and clothes. They even painted pictures on the walls of caves. But they died out around 25,000 years ago. Keeping animals. From about 10,000 years ago, people began keeping goats and sheep. Wild dogs were also tamed so that they could help people look after their animals. Stone tools. Long before people discovered metal they made tools from wood, bone, and stone. A stone called flint was made into very sharp tools such as axes, knives, and arrowheads. Flint axe. From caves to huts. Caves provided people with their first homes. But when people started living together in larger groups, they began to build their own homes from wood, leaves, stones, and mud. The ancient world. The first great towns and cities were built in the Middle East and North Africa. The people who lived there invented writing and the wheel. They built temples for their gods and goddesses, and sent great armies to attack their enemies. Pyramid builders. The ancient Egyptians lived along the River Nile in North Africa. They began to build their great stone mountains, called pyramids, about 4,600 years ago. The pyramids were tombs for the Egyptian kings, who were called pharaohs. Trading by sea. From about 4,500 years ago, people called the Phoenicians lived on the shores of the Mediterranean. They traveled around the Mediterranean Sea in large sailing ships, buying and selling valuable goods such as wine and spices, glass, gold, and jewels. Talented Greeks. Ancient Greece was very powerful 2,500 years ago. The Greeks were not only great warriors, but also skilled in art, science, and writing. Their style of building is still admired and copied today. The Parthenon in Athens is a Greek temple built for the goddess Athena. A great empire. About 2,000 years ago, the Romans had the best army in the world. The army was very well organized, with groups of 100 men each led by commanders called centurions. The army won many battles and helped the Romans build a great empire. Did you know? The Colosseum was a huge stadium in Rome that could hold 50,000 people. Ancient Romans used to go there to watch fighters called gladiators battle to the death. The birth of faith. Although people have always believed in gods and spirits, many of the world's great religions began between 1,500 and 3,000 years ago. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Judaism all began at this time. Buddhism. Siddhartha Gautama was born in India about 2,500 years ago. He gave up his possessions and worked to help the poor. Later he became known as Buddha. Buddha. Judaism. Jews believe that they have a special relationship with God and that they are His chosen people. One of their biggest festivals is called Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. Christianity. Christianity began just over 2,000 years ago and today is the world's largest religion, with about 2 billion followers. Christians follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, who they believe was the Son of God. Hinduism. Hinduism began thousands of years ago in India. Its believers try to follow an ideal, or perfect, way of life. There are many Hindu gods, including Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The Hindu goddess Shiva. Islam. The followers of Islam are called Muslims. The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is one of their most holy sites. Muslims call God Allah, and they believe that the Prophet Muhammad was Allah's messenger. Did you know? All followers of the Sikh religion wear or carry 5 symbols of their faith. These are, uncut hair, a comb, a steel bracelet, a sword, and short pants. Cities of the Sun. From 2,000 years ago, Central and South America were home to a number of powerful civilizations. The people built huge palaces for their rulers and massive temples for their gods. Many of these people worshipped the sun as their god. The Aztecs. In the 1400s, the Aztec people took over part of the country that today is called Mexico. They made beautiful cloth, baskets, and bowls, and wonderful gold jewelry. To please their gods they killed animals and people in special ceremonies called sacrifices. The Toltecs. About 1,000 years ago, the Toltec people ruled the land that is now central Mexico. The Toltecs had a powerful army, and they conquered all the people living around them. They also built large cities and carved huge statues of Toltec warriors. Toltec warrior statues at the ruined city of Tula. The Maya. The Maya lived in Central America about 3,500 years ago. Their civilization was at its greatest from 300 to 900 AD. The Maya built stepped pyramids. They wrote using signs and pictures instead of letters. The Incas. The Incas lived in what is now Peru. One of their main cities was Cuzco. It had wide streets and large squares. The Inca Empire included much of the western coast of South America. It collapsed after the Spanish invaded Peru in 1531. The Incas' descendants still speak Quechua, the Inca language. Did you know? Long ago, the peoples of Central and South America did not use the wheel. Everything was carried by people or llamas. Empires of the East. From about 1,000 years ago, huge empires grew in eastern lands. Their rulers had great wealth and power, and fought many battles. Skilled people made beautiful pots, paintings, and statues, and built many amazing buildings. Riding to war. The warrior King Genghis Khan led his people, the Mongols, in many battles. The Mongols rode fast and fought fiercely. About 800 years ago they ruled most of Asia, but their power soon faded. Did you know? Genghis Khan ruled one of the biggest empires the world has ever seen, but he could not read or write. The Great Wall. Over hundreds of years, the Chinese built the Great Wall of China to keep out raiders from the north. It ran across hills and valleys for around 3,700 miles. Today much of the Great Wall is in ruins, although some parts are in good condition. Shoguns. Japan was ruled by an emperor, but most of the power was held by the top general, or shogun. There were many wars as important families fought each other for power and to become shogun. Largest temple. About 900 years ago the Khmer people of Southeast Asia built a giant temple at Angkor. With massive walls, over 1,000 yards long, and 5 huge towers, it is the largest religious building in the world. The Great Temple at Angkor. Knights and castles. Between 1,100 and 600 years ago, many European kings built castles out of stone. Castles were designed to keep the people inside safe from attack. They often had thick stone walls, tall towers, and protective moats of water all around them. Pretend battle. Knights were important soldiers who fought for their king. They sometimes practiced their skills in pretend fights called jousts. They used a long spear, called a lance, and a short sword. Cannons. As cannons became more powerful, the days of the castle came to an end. Firing stone cannonballs, these weapons could knock big holes in the castle walls. Well protected. A castle was more than a massive home. Often it was like a small village. Strong stone walls kept out enemies. Stores of food could last for months, and water came from a deep well. Drawbridge. Moat. The main gate was protected by 2 towers called the barbican. Inside the walls was a protected courtyard called the bailey. Life as a peasant. While the rich lived comfortable lives in their big houses or castles, ordinary people, called peasants, had hard lives. All their work was done by hand or using animals such as horses or cattle to pull plows or carry things. Exploring new lands. Since earliest times, people have been curious to explore new lands, where the customs and ways of life are different. Some explorers sailed the seas in search of riches or adventure, while others searched for better places to live. Across the Atlantic. In 1492, the Italian Christopher Columbus made his famous voyage of exploration to America. He visited many islands in the Caribbean. On his voyage he took 3 ships with him, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Viking explorers. The Vikings of Scandinavia sailed their longships to settle in new lands. They became the first Europeans to reach America. Evidence of a Viking village dating back 1,000 years has been found in Lonsaux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. Did you know? The Vikings chose the name Greenland to make people want to go there. In fact, Greenland is a much icier and colder country than Iceland. The Silk Road to China. Long ago, only the Chinese knew how to make silk. It was brought to Europe along a route called the Silk Road. In 1271, an Italian merchant called Marco Polo took this road to China where he met the great leader Kublai Khan. Travelers on the Silk Road today. The Maoris. There were no people in New Zealand until sailors from Polynesia arrived there just over 1,000 years ago. New Zealand's Maori people are the descendants of these explorers. Maoris performing a haka, a traditional war dance. The New World. America was known as the New World because most people from Europe did not know about it until Christopher Columbus went there more than 500 years ago. Native Americans. When the Europeans first arrived in the New World they found Native Americans already living there. Soon there were lots of battles as the Europeans wanted to take the land for themselves. Early settlers. People from Europe set up homes along the east coast of North America. As their numbers increased, they began to move west. They traveled in covered wagons with all their possessions. The Wild West. The wide grassy plains of North America were so big, the farmers could let their cattle and horses graze freely. Each year the cowboys would round up the herds and take them to market. Revolutionary War. North America was ruled by Britain, but the people wanted to run their own country. They began a fierce battle called the Revolutionary War, or the War of Independence. In 1783, the Americans won, and the United States of America, the USA, was born. The Revolutionary War lasted over 5 years. Did you know? The USA's capital city, Washington, D.C., is named after both George Washington and Christopher Columbus. D.C. stands for the District of Columbia. Smoke and steam. About 300 years ago, people in Europe started to invent many new machines, such as steam engines and weaving looms for making cloth. Factories were built, making all kinds of products. This period became known as the Industrial Revolution. Steam power. The steam engine was first invented in about 1700. Then in 1769 the Scottish engineer James Watt made it better and stronger. Steam engines were soon being used to power factories. Later they were used to drive trains. Steam locomotives are still in use all over the world. Tallest tower. The Eiffel Tower is in Paris, France. It was built in 1889 to celebrate all the latest inventions of that time. It is over 1,000 feet tall and named after its builder, Gustave Eiffel. Did you know? The Eiffel Tower was the tallest building in the world for 40 years, until the Empire State Building was built in New York. Today the tallest building is the Taipei 101 Tower in Taiwan. Farm to factory. Before the Industrial Revolution, most people worked on farms and would spin and weave at home. When steam-powered machines made it possible to spin and weave cotton much faster, many people went to work in factories. Building with iron and steel. During the Industrial Revolution, engineers used iron and steel to build longer bridges and safer tunnels than ever before. One of the most famous was the British engineer Asambird Kingdom Brunel, who built 25 railway lines and over 100 bridges. Brunel designed this bridge in 1830. It is called a suspension bridge. A changing world. The 20th century was a time of great change. There were two terrible wars, in which many millions of people were killed. New technology altered the way people lived their lives. People also began to travel more, and enjoy more leisure time. World War I. After many years of small battles in Europe, a bigger war started in 1914. This became known as World War I, or the Great War. It lasted for 4 years, and more than 8 million soldiers died. Air power. The Wright brothers invented the airplane in 1903. By the time World War II started in 1939, the airplane had already become a powerful weapon. After the war, lots of people began to travel by air purely for pleasure. British Spitfire fighter plane. At the movies. The first films were made in black and white, and had no sound. But this did not stop comedians such as Charlie Chaplin becoming popular with people all over the world. The Ford Model T. By 1900, the first cars were on the roads. But they were slow and often broke down. The Ford Model T was the first car that ordinary people could afford to buy and that worked really well. More than 15 million Model T Fords were made. Most of them were black. The Beatles. In the 1950s and 60s, a new type of music was created that appealed to young people. The Beatles from Liverpool, England, became an international sensation. The world today. History is what happened in the past. The important people and events of today will one day become history. It is hard to tell exactly what things will be remembered. It could be a terrible war or discovering the cure to a deadly disease. High-tech cities. Countries such as China, India, and Malaysia are developing fast. They are building new cities with all the latest technology. Shanty towns. Around many new and wealthy cities, poor people live in shanty towns. Here, the houses are shacks, made from garbage, and often with no running water or electricity. Year 2000. A millennium is 1,000 years. In the year 2000, people all over the world held parties and set off fireworks to celebrate the new millennium. Trying to help. Lots of people in the richer countries want to help the people living in poorer countries. Big music festivals have been held to raise money for people who are hungry and to remind us about poor people. Deadly drought. A long time without rain is called a drought. Farm crops die so the people have no food. In recent years, drought in Africa has killed millions of people. The way we live. The world we live in is home to over 6 billion people, and that number is growing by around 200,000 every day. All these people live in more than 200 different countries, spread over the continents of Africa, Asia, Australasia, Europe, North America, and South America. A few hardy scientists even live in Antarctica. If you wanted to say hello to everyone in the world, you would need to speak nearly 3,000 different languages. The houses we live in. Around the world, people live in very different kinds of homes. Some people live in high-rise city apartments, others in tents made of felt. High homes. Cities are very crowded places, so many people live in apartments. Some of these are in very tall buildings. Hundreds of people may live in one apartment block. Homes on sticks. In some parts of Southeast Asia, people build houses held up by strong wooden posts. This keeps the house clear of floods and snakes. It also helps keep the house cool. Keeping cool. In hot countries, houses have plenty of shady areas to help people stay cool. Houses are often painted white. The white walls throw back, or reflect, the heat of the sun. Mobile homes. Some people do not live in one place all the time. They are called nomads. Nomads usually live in tents that they can take down and carry. The nomads of Mongolia live in round tents called yurts. Yurts have a wooden frame, covered in felt, canvas, and cotton. Mud houses. In Africa, houses are often made of mud. The mud is spread over a framework of sticks and then allowed to dry. But the mud can also be used to make bricks. It is pressed into brick-shaped boxes and dried in the sun. What people wear. Clothes may keep us warm or cool. Some clothes are very comfortable, others are elegant or beautiful. Clothes can show that we belong to a particular group, such as a school or a team. Shimmering sari. This beautiful silk dress comes from India. It is called a sari. It is a long piece of material that wraps around the body several times and drapes over the shoulder. Did you know? Silk is made by silkworms. These are really caterpillars of the silk moth. They spin a casing, or cocoon, of silk to protect themselves before changing into moths. Denim jeans. Jeans were created more than 100 years ago. They are made from a strong blue material called denim. Jeans were first designed as work pants for miners. Bright colors. In many African countries the clothes are often brightly colored. They also have beautiful patterns and special stitching called embroidery. African clothes are usually loose and flowing, to keep people cool in the hot sunshine. Stay cool. For thousands of years, in the hot Middle East, people have worn long, loose robes. The robes are often white, to bounce back, or reflect, the heat of the sun. At school. In most countries, children are allowed to go to school all year round. But some children have to stop school at certain times of the year to help gather crops from the fields. School clothes. In many schools, all the children wear the same kind of clothes as each other, called a uniform. This makes them feel part of the group. Outdoor school. In countries where it is hot, or the people are poor, school is held out in the open. The children may even sit on the hard ground. School bus. Children walk or bicycle to school, or go by car or bus. Often there is a special bus for school children. In snowy places children may ski or ride on a snow vehicle called a skidoo. High-tech schools. In many schools, children have lots of things to help them learn, such as computers or books. But in some countries, children have to share books, or have no books at all. Special schools. Some children go to schools where they have extra lessons to learn how to dance, sing, or practice sport. Other schools help children with special learning needs, such as deaf or blind people. This is a special school for dance in Thailand. At work. People go to work to earn money so they can pay for their food, clothes, and houses. Most people work only during the day, but others, such as doctors and police officers, also work at night. In an office. Today, a lot of work is done in offices. People sit at a desk with a computer and a telephone. Computers are used for all kinds of office work, from writing letters and emails to doing really difficult math. Skilled worker. Some people work with their hands to make or mend things. Carpenters work with wood, plumbers work with pipes, and electricians work with electricity. Emergency. Police, firefighters, and ambulance crews are all part of the emergency services. Their work can often help to save lives. They must always be ready to help at any time of the day or night. Animal doctor. Veterinarians are trained to work with animals. Some vets need to understand how lots of different animals' bodies work. Other vets work with one type of animal, such as horses. In a factory. People who work in factories make things or put things together, such as bicycles. Some of the work may be done by hand, but a lot of it is done by machines. On the move. In many countries most people own cars and use them every day. We call this private transportation. Buses, trains, boats, and planes are public transportation. In most poorer countries, people still walk or cycle everywhere. Animal transport. When the ground is rough or steep, animals such as horses or donkeys often provide the best way to get around. In other parts of the world, llamas, yaks, camels, or water buffaloes are used to carry people and things. Pedal power. An easy way to get around is by bicycle. In China there are more than 1 billion bicycles. Some pull small carts for carrying shopping. Did you know? Bicycles are the world's most popular way of traveling. In the Netherlands there are almost as many bicycles as there are people. On foot. For many people walking remains the only way they can travel. Some people have to walk many miles every day to go to school, work, or the market. Going underground. In large towns and cities, the roads often become jammed with traffic. So some cities have trains that run under the ground. These can carry lots of people around a city very quickly. Where food comes from. All the food you see on the supermarket shelves is first grown as crops, or raised as farm animals. Although machines do a lot of the work, millions of people still work hard to harvest the food we eat. Growing rice. Rice feeds more people in the world than any other cereal crop. The rice plant likes to grow in very soggy fields, called paddies. Almost all rice is planted and harvested by hand. Planting rice is very hard work. Livestock farming. When farmers keep animals to work the land or to sell for meat, we call it livestock farming. Some of the biggest farms in the world raise cows that give us the meat we call beef. Sheep give us lamb, and pigs give us pork and ham. Picking by hand. Tomatoes and other soft fruit are picked by hand because they are soft and easily squashed. Strawberries and plums are also picked this way. This is because the fruit does not all ripen at the same time, so people have to choose which fruit to pick. Seafood. Fishing boats called trawlers drag huge nets through the ocean to catch fish and other sea creatures. When they are full, the nets are pulled onto the boat and the catch is emptied onto the boat deck. Did you know? Some food is produced in a natural way. This is called organic food. The crops are not sprayed with chemicals, and the animals eat foods without chemical additives. The food we eat. Long ago, people ate only what they could grow, catch, or hunt themselves. Today, supermarkets sell food from all around the world. This means we can eat food such as strawberries all year round and not just when they are in season. Preparing food. Food such as fish must be cleaned carefully to be ready for cooking. This fish has had its head, tail, scales, and bones cut away. The fleshy parts that are left are called fillets. Steaming. In New Zealand, there are lots of hot springs and steaming geysers. These underground water sources are naturally hot. The Maoris use the water to cook their food and keep it warm. Eat in, take out. Today, people cook at home less often. We go out to eat in restaurants or buy takeout food, such as pizza or burgers and fries, to eat almost everywhere. Cooked over a fire. In some areas, people do not have electricity or gas. They cook meals in a big pot over an open fire. It can take hours to collect the firewood. Based on rice. In Eastern countries, many meals include rice. Rice can be steamed and served with a hot, spicy curry, or made with milk and sugar into a dessert. In fact, some people eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Did you know? One of the most costly foods is caviar. It is the tiny black eggs from a large fish called a sturgeon. The best caviar costs more than a new bicycle. It tastes very salty. Stores and markets. There are as many different kinds of stores as there are things to buy. Some, called department stores, sell all kinds of things, from clothes to beds. Others specialize in selling just one thing. Shopping malls. A mall is a group of shops all together under one roof. You stay warm and dry, and you can window shop. This means looking at things on display without buying them. On display. In hot, dry countries many shopkeepers put all their goods outside. As people pass by, they can see everything that is for sale. This shop in Morocco sells metal pots, trays, and candlesticks. Where supermarkets get their food from. Before food reaches the shelves of your local supermarket, it has to go on a long journey. First it is grown or raised on a farm, 1. Then it is taken to a huge building, called a warehouse, 2. From here it goes to the supermarket. Only then can you put it into your supermarket cart, 3. Markets. A market is usually an open area with many small stalls that sell lots of different things. In some markets the food is displayed on the ground. Playing sports. Playing sports keeps you active and healthy. You can play as part of a team or by yourself. Sports help people to learn about themselves. They learn how to lose without being upset, and how to win without being big-headed. Most of all, sports are a lot of fun. Skiing. Skis allow you to slide over the snow really fast. Sometimes you can even jump through the air. Sport for all. Everyone is suited to some type of athletics, even people with disabilities. People in wheelchairs can play and enjoy a wide variety of sports, including archery, basketball, and racing. Some wheelchair athletes compete in marathon races. Soccer. The sport that is played most around the world is soccer. It is a team sport, with 11 players in each team. Every 4 years the best countries play against each other to try and win the World Cup. Run and jump. Athletes who run short races very quickly are called sprinters. Sometimes sprinters have to jump over hurdles as well. Did you know? The biggest sporting event in the world is the Olympic Games. These games happen every 4 years. Almost 4,000 people take part in more than 25 different sports. Music, dance, and art. Most people like to be creative in some way. They may like to sing, dance, play an instrument, or paint. These activities are called the arts. You don't have to be really good at the arts, the important thing is to enjoy them. Breakdancing. There are as many kinds of dance as there are music. Some dances are slow and serious. Some, like breakdancing, is very energetic. Breakdancers jump around and even spin on their heads. Traditional dance. Some types of music and dance are thousands of years old. These Tibetan dancers are performing at one of their summer festivals. Art everywhere. Ever since the first person drew the outline of an animal on a cave wall, people have loved to paint. A few paintings are so valuable they are kept locked up. Others help brighten up drab city streets. Plan of a modern orchestra. A large group of musicians who play classical music is called an orchestra. Most orchestras have violins, 1, and 2, horns, 3, clarinets, 4, oboes, 5, flutes, 6, bassoons, 7, violas, 8, cellos, 9, percussion, 10, trumpets, 11, trombones, 12, tubas, 13, double basses, 14. Sculptures. Many artists like to carve figures out of wood or stone. These sculptures can look very real. Around the world, sculptures can be seen in cities and parks, as well as in art galleries. This statue is called the Strong Man. It is in Japan. Ceremonies and festivals. In every country of the world people celebrate special days in different ways. It could be a noisy celebration at the beginning of a new year, or it could be a religious day when everyone goes to a special place to pray. Chinese New Year. The Chinese New Year is usually around the end of January or the beginning of February. The celebrations traditionally last for 15 days. People dress up and there are lots of fireworks. Festival of Light. Diwali is the Hindu festival of light. It is celebrated every year between the end of October and the middle of November. Hindus all over the world celebrate by lighting candles. Did you know? The Hindu Great Fair on the banks of the river Ganges is the greatest gathering of people in the world. Up to 20 million people go there every year. The birth of Christ. At Christmas, the birth of Christ in a stable in Bethlehem is celebrated by Christians all over the world. The story of Christ's birth, or nativity, is often acted out in schools and churches. This nativity scene was actually performed in Bethlehem, the place of Christ's birth. Prayer time. Followers of some religions go to a place of worship once a week, but Muslims have to pray 5 times a day. They kneel and face toward the holy city of Mecca. Running our lives. Most countries are looked after by a group of people called a government. It is the government that makes laws and takes big decisions such as how much to spend on hospitals, roads, and schools. Lots of meetings. The government of a country meets often to talk, or debate, and make decisions. Usually there is one main leader who has the final decision. This can be a president or a prime minister. Governments meet to discuss things in a special debating room. Voting. In many countries people choose their leaders and the people they want in the government. They choose in secret and then post their answers in a special box. This is called voting. Kings and queens. In some countries the leaders are kings, queens, or emperors. They have power because they are part of an important family. Sometimes the government helps them to look after, or run, the country. United Nations. Almost every country in the world is a member of a big organization called the United Nations. They meet to sort out arguments between countries and help when there are famines or earthquakes. Taking over. If there are great problems in a country, the army may take over. They make new laws and keep control. This is called a coup. Animals and plants. Life is all around us. Wherever we look, we see animals, plants, and other living things. Animals are living because they grow, have babies, and move about. Some of them burrow in soil or swim in water. Others run on the ground, slither among rocks, or fly in the air. Plants are also alive. They may not move around in the way animals do, but they grow and produce baby plants. Simple plants. There are millions of kinds of plants. They grow everywhere, from the tops of mountains to the seabed. Some are smaller than this letter O, others grow as tall as small skyscrapers. Ferns and mosses. Ferns have wavy-edged fronds. Mosses have tiny green leaves. Both ferns and mosses like damp, shady places. Too much sunshine dries them out. Fern frond. Plants and growth. Plants must have sunlight and air to grow. They take these in through their leaves. Plants also need water and special food called minerals. Most plants take these from the soil, through their roots. Air. Sunshine. Rain. Leaves. Roots. Seaweeds. Seaweeds do not have flowers and many kinds do not even have roots, but float in the sea. Some seaweeds are harvested for food. Others, such as rack, are used to make toothpaste and ice cream. Rack seaweed. Air plants. Some plants do not need the soil to grow. Instead, they use their roots to cling to trees or other plants. These types of plants are sometimes called air plants. They get their water from dew and rain. This staghorn fern grows on trees. Fascinating fungi. Both mushrooms and toadstools are types of fungi. Fungi are not plants, but they are not animals either. They grow in damp places and feed on the rotting remains of dead plants and animals. Flowers. Some flowers are bright and beautiful, while others are tiny and hidden. Flowers help make seeds so that new flowers can grow. But the seeds can't grow on their own. They need dust-like grains called pollen from another flower of the same kind. Buds and flowers. Flowers come out of small green buds. The colored parts of a flower are called petals. In different flowers the petals can be white, yellow, orange, red, blue, or even black. Petal. How poppies make their seeds. Seeds are made in the middle of the flowers. Pollen grains travel from one poppy and land on another. The part of the flower that contains the seeds then starts to grow and, one by one, the petals fall off. Holes open up in the seed pod and allow the seeds to fall out when the wind blows. Petals. Pollen. Petals drop. Seed pod. Seeds. Holes. How pollen moves. Some flowers let the wind carry their pollen to other flowers. But many flowers need animals to do this. The flowers make sweet nectar, which bees and other creatures love. As these animals drink the nectar, they get covered in pollen, which they carry to the next flower. Spreading seeds. Some seeds are small and light, and blow away in the wind. Other seeds have tasty parts that animals eat. The animal drops the rest of the seed on the soil, where it grows into a new plant. Dandelion seeds have fluffy parachutes that are carried by the wind. Trees. Trees are the biggest plants of all. They are tall and strong, with lots of branches. They give us wood, fruit, and nuts, as well as shade on a hot day. Fruit. Much of the fruit that we eat grows on trees. Certain types of fruit, such as oranges, can be grown all year round in some parts of the USA. Leaves in summer. In summer, trees such as the oak, beech, and this fruit tree, have green leaves. But in the fall, when the weather becomes cold, the leaves turn brown and fall off. New leaves grow again in spring, when the warm weather returns. Branches grow out from the tree trunk. The main part of a tree is called the trunk. Trees that lose their leaves in the fall are called deciduous trees. Flowers, called blossom, open in spring and summer. Leaves all year. Evergreen trees, such as the pine, have leaves on them all year round. Their leaves do drop off, but new leaves grow all the time. Pine leaves are long and thin, like needles. Pine tree seeds grow inside cones. Pine cones carry seeds. Nuts. Many trees, including the hazel, walnut, and beech, produce seeds called nuts that we like to eat. Oak trees produce nuts called acorns. People can't eat acorns, but they are popular with squirrels and other woodland animals. Did you know? When a tree is cut down, you can see inside the tree trunk. Circles of wood start from the center and grow out. If you count these rings, you can tell how old the tree is. Simple animals. Many animals have very simple bodies, without a bony skeleton. Some have no legs, while others have lots of bendy arms called tentacles. Most simple animals are harmless, but a few can give you a painful sting. Living in soil. Earthworms live in the ground. They burrow their way through the soil and feed on any tiny pieces of dead, rotting plants that they come across. Earthworms are good for the garden, because the tunnels they make let air and rain into the soil. Sliming along. Snails leave a trail of sticky slime as they slide along. They come out at night when it is cool and damp, to eat leaves and other parts of plants. The snail's eyes are at the end of these stalks. Simple but smart. The octopus is probably the most intelligent of the simple animals. It can even open boxes and jars with its 8 suckered tentacles. An octopus has 8 tentacles. Each tentacle has 240 suckers, which give the octopus a good grip. Did you know? Simple animals do not have bones in their back. This means they can't grow very big, unless they live in the sea. The giant octopus can grow up to 19 feet long and weigh more than 110 pounds. Jellyfish. The jellyfish floats in the ocean. It can swim slowly by squeezing its umbrella-shaped body. The jellyfish trails its long stinging tentacles behind it to catch small fish and shrimps. Sea anemone. The sea anemone looks like a flower, but it is really an animal. This ocean creature clings to a rock and uses its tentacles to sting small fish and push them into its mouth. Mouth. Lots of legs. Some animals have 6 legs, or 8, or even more. Counting an animal's legs can tell us what kind of creature it is. If a mini beast has 6 legs, it is likely to be an insect. If it has 8 legs, then it is probably a spider. 8 legs. Spiders, such as this tarantula, have 8 legs. Spiders hunt other creatures and kill them by injecting poison with their needle-sharp fangs. Some spiders chase after or jump on their prey, but others spin sticky webs to catch insects to eat. Tarantula. Most legs. The animal that has the most legs is the millipede. Some millipedes have as many as 750 legs. Although they have lots of legs, millipedes move quite slowly. They like to munch on dead leaves and rotting wood. Many legs. The giant centipede lives in North America. It is speedy and bendy, and grows 12 inches long. It catches and eats cockroaches, crickets, mice, and baby birds. Giant centipede. 6 legs. All insects have 6 legs, and most have wings, too. There are more insects in the world than any other type of animal, from scurrying ants to buzzing bees and beautiful butterflies sipping sweet nectar. Swallowtail butterfly. Did you know? Crabs wave at each other. A crab has 8 legs and 2 big claws. It waves its claws at other crabs to warn them to stay away or face a fight. Fish and amphibians. Fish have fins and a tail, and swim in water. The biggest fish is the whale shark of the open ocean. It is 40 feet long, which is as big as a bus. One of the smallest fish is the goby that lives in jungle swamps. This tiny fish can be as small as your fingernail. Ocean hunter. The great white shark is the biggest hunting fish. It has 50 razor-sharp teeth and eats fish, seabirds, seals, and dolphins. Only rarely does it attack people. Great white shark. Fast swimmers. Fish have smooth, streamlined bodies that help them swim easily through the water. The sailfish can swim faster than 60 miles an hour. Most fish can see well using their eyes. Fish breathe using special parts, called gills, on the sides of their heads. Many fish have a covering of hard, shiny scales. Fins help fish to steer through water. Amphibians. Amphibians are animals that live in water when they are young. When they are fully grown, they spend most of their time on land. Frogs, toads, newts, and salamanders are all amphibians. Frogs' eggs are called spawn. Each egg is protected by a layer of clear jelly. From frog spawn to adult frog. Female frogs can lay a lot of eggs, sometimes up to 4,000. The baby frogs that hatch out are called tadpoles. Young tadpoles have a tail but no legs. As they grow, the tail shrinks and their front and back legs appear. The tadpole begins to grow inside the egg. Soon the tadpole is swimming free. The back legs grow first, then the front legs. Finally, the tail begins to disappear. Only adult frogs can live out of water. Scaly reptiles. There are many kinds of reptiles. Lizards have 4 legs and can run fast. Snakes have no legs and slither quietly. Crocodiles and alligators are big, strong, and toothy. Turtles have a hard body shell. Most reptiles have scaly skin, and their babies hatch from eggs. Big bite. A crocodile hides in muddy water, waiting for an animal to come for a drink. When the animal bends down to take a sip, the crocodile grabs it with its huge jaws. Then it drags the animal under the water to drown it. Color change. The chameleon is a lizard that can change the color of its skin to blend in with its background. This helps it hide from danger and ambush insects, which it catches with its long, sticky tongue. Ready to strike. Snakes bite other animals using long, sharp teeth, called fangs. They can't chew, so they swallow their meal whole. The cobra is a poisonous snake. It can flatten the skin on its neck, called its hood, and rear up to make itself look more frightening. Cobra hood. Danger on the beach. Female sea turtles lay their eggs on beaches and bury them in the sand. The baby turtles hatch and dig their way to the surface. They must hurry to the sea, or they may be eaten by crabs, seagulls, and lizards. Birds. Birds live all over the world, from jungles and deserts to the open ocean. They all have feathers, a beak, 2 legs for walking, and 2 wings for flapping. But not all birds can fly. Penguins use their wings to swim and ostriches use their strong legs to run fast. Big bird. The ostrich is the biggest bird of all. It's taller and heavier than an adult person. An ostrich can't fly, but it can run faster than a racehorse. Its eggs are 24 times larger than a hen's egg. Eggs and chicks. Most birds build nests for their eggs. After they hatch, the baby birds, called chicks, open their beaks wide ready for food. The parent birds bring them food such as berries, flies, caterpillars, and worms. Flying high in the sky. A bird flaps its wings to push itself through the air. If there are warm currents of air, birds like the eagle can glide or soar without flapping. The eagle is a hunter. It has huge eyes to see animals far below. The bald eagle has a wingspan of around 6.5 feet. Good swimmers. Penguins live in cold southern oceans. They flap their wings to swim fast through the water as they chase food such as fish, squid, and shrimps. Penguins lay their eggs and raise their chicks on land. Their thick feathers keep them warm even in the coldest weather. Did you know? Owls have such big eyes that they cannot roll them from side to side. But the owl can turn its head in almost a full circle to see what is happening behind. Mammals on land. Mammals are animals with fur that feed their babies on milk. Many pets and farm animals are mammals, including dogs, cats, rabbits, cows, and sheep. People are mammals, too. Mammals are warm-blooded. This means that they can move around and stay active even in cold weather. Flying in the dark. Bats are the only mammals that can fly. They also have such good hearing that they can fly in the dark. Some bats catch moths, mice, or fish. Others feed on soft fruit. Mother's milk. A baby mammal feeds only on its mother's milk. Feeding on milk helps the young mammal to grow very quickly. It also means that the youngster must stay close to its mother, which helps keep it safe. Pronghorn antelope. Fastest runner. The cheetah is the fastest mammal. It uses its speed to hunt other animals, such as gazelles. It can run faster than 60 miles an hour. But it can only do this for a short while, then it must rest. Looking out for each other. Many grazing animals, such as antelopes, buffaloes, and wild horses, live together in large herds. This helps keep them safe, because there are many more eyes to watch out for prowling wolves, lions, and leopards. Did you know? The elephant is the biggest land mammal. It weighs more than 5 tons, that's as much as 80 people. Mammals in the ocean. Most mammals have 4 legs and a tail. But mammals that live in the ocean, such as whales and dolphins, have fins and flippers instead of legs. Ocean mammals must come to the surface to breathe air. Unlike fish, they can't breathe underwater. Leaping out. Dolphins love to leap out of the water and splash back in. They chase after food such as fish and squid. Dolphins talk to each other by making clicks, squeaks, and squeals. Flipper. Cow of the sea. The manatee is also called the sea cow. It munches underwater plants such as seagrass, just like a cow eating grass on land. Fighting on the shore. Seals come ashore to have their babies. The biggest seal is the elephant seal. The males fight to rule over part of the beach. The mothers and babies must stay away from the fighting, so they don't get squashed. Whales. The biggest whales, such as the humpback, have a mouthful of comb-like plates called baleen. They use the baleen to sieve out their food from the ocean. Even though the whales are huge, they mostly eat tiny shrimps called krill. Baleen. Did you know? Ocean mammals and fish swim in quite different ways. Fish swish their tails from side to side. Ocean mammals beat their tails up and down. Food and feeding. What an animal eats affects how and where it lives. Animals that eat plants are known as herbivores. Animals that eat other creatures are called carnivores. Some animals eat both plants and other creatures. These are known as omnivores. Carnivores. Carnivores such as lions, tigers, and leopards are expert hunters. They have good senses to help them find their prey, and sharp teeth or claws for killing it. Herbivores. Some herbivores, including impalas, graze on grass. Others, such as giraffes, nibble leaves off trees and shrubs. Many herbivores only feed at night, to keep them safe from carnivores. Impala. Omnivores. Badgers will eat anything from an earthworm to roots, shoots, and berries. This diet helps badgers live in places where other animals would not find enough food. A food chain. Big animals feed on smaller animals, which themselves eat even smaller animals. This is called a food chain. Cod. Herring. Crustaceans. Seal. Orca. Living together. Oxpeckers are birds that like to ride on the backs of big herbivores such as water buffaloes. As the buffaloes graze, they disturb insects, and the birds fly down to eat them. Threats to nature. The biggest danger to nature is people. Around the world, people are hunting animals for their meat and skin, and damaging the natural places where plants and wild animals live. Too much garbage. Every day we throw away huge amounts of garbage, from old televisions to candy wrappers. Much of it is harmful to nature. All this trash has to be taken away and either burned or buried in the ground. Fewer wild places. Every year there are more people in the world. They all need somewhere to live and food to eat. This means that more wild places are being destroyed so that houses can be built and food crops grown. It also means that there are fewer places for wild animals to live and wild plants to grow. Warmer world. We burn fuels in our homes, cars, factories, and power stations. This releases gases into the air that make the world warmer. Global warming could melt the ice where polar bears live. Saving nature. Wildlife parks and reserves are special places set aside for animals and plants. Wardens protect the animals from hunters. This rhino has been put to sleep so it can be moved to a wildlife park, where it will be safe. Did you know? There are only 500 Sumatran rhinoceroses left. If people do not work hard to save them, they will soon all die out. You and your body. Your body is amazing. You can run and jump using your muscles. You can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste with your 5 senses. And you can solve puzzles with your brain. Your body also does things without you even knowing. All the time, even when you are asleep, your heart is beating, your blood flowing. And if you hurt yourself, your body quickly tries to make itself better. On the outside, your skin covers your body all over. It helps protect you from small knocks and scrapes, germs and the harmful rays of the sun. And when your skin does get cut or scratched, it even repairs itself. Fingerprints. The skin on your hands is covered with lines and creases that help you hold things tightly. These lines make up little patterns. The ones on your fingertips are called fingerprints. What is amazing about these is that every person's fingerprints are different. Waterproof. Your skin stops water from getting into your body when you go swimming. But it does let water out through tiny holes called pores. We call this sweating and it helps cool you down. Different colors. Skin comes in lots of different colors, from dark to light. People who live in hot, sunny countries often have darker skins. Darker skins help prevent skin from burning. Your skin. The tough outside layer of your skin is actually dead. Bits rub off all the time, but new skin is always growing, too. Hairs grow through the skin. They are attached to nerves to help you feel things. Pore. Sweat gland. Hair. Blood supply. Nerve. Your hair. You have hair all over your body. The tiny hairs on your arms help you feel things. The hair on your head keeps you warm. The color of your hair, and whether it is straight, curly, or wavy, will depend on what your parents' or grandparents' hair is like. Straight brown hair. Curly black hair. Straight blonde hair. Wavy red hair. Bony parts. Your bones are strong and hard. They hold up the softer parts of your body. Your muscles move your bones. All of your bones together are called your skeleton. Bone shapes. Different bones have different shapes. The longest bone is your upper leg, or thigh bone. The widest bone is your hip. The main bone inside your head is your skull. Skull. Jawbone. Shoulder blade. Breastbone. Ribs. Arm bone. Backbone, or spine. Hip bone. Wrist bones. Hand bones. Finger bones. Thigh bone. Knee. Shin bone. Ankle bones. Foot bones. Toe bones. Hip joint. At the point where your thigh meets your hip there is a joint called a ball joint. This allows the thigh bone to move in almost every direction. Hip bone. Ball joint. Thigh bone. Knee joint. The knee joint is a simple hinge joint. It works like the hinge on a door. This means that it can only bend one way. Shin bone. Thigh bone. Kneecap. Joints. A joint is where two bones come together. Some joints, like your ankle, can only move a little. Others, such as your shoulder joint, can move in almost every direction. Broken bones. Old dead bones look white and dry. But inside the body, bones are alive and busy. They can even mend themselves if they break, often with help from a strong support, or cast, made of plaster. Did you know? A young baby has about 350 bones. As it grows, some of the bones join together. This is why an adult has only 206 bones. Lots of muscles. Every time you move, you use your muscles. Even when you are sitting still, your muscles are busy working. You are still breathing and blinking, and your heart carries on beating. All of these actions use muscles. Powerful muscles. Muscles come in all shapes and sizes. Some muscles are large and powerful. Lifting weights can make your muscles stronger. Muscle power. Most muscles are joined to a bone at each end. When the muscle gets shorter, it pulls on the bones and makes your joints move. Usually several muscles pull together for each movement. Shoulder muscle. Arm muscles. The smallest muscle is inside the ear. The biggest muscle is in the buttock, bottom. The longest muscle is across the front of the leg. The large muscle in your lower leg is called the calf muscle. Tireless legs. Athletes who run long distances have longer, thinner muscles than weightlifters. These muscles may not be so big, but they can keep working for much longer. This helps the athletes to run long races without tiring. Face it. You have more than 60 muscles in your head and around your eyes, nose, and mouth. You use these to make your face move. Try looking surprised, happy, or sad. Can you feel the muscles working? Did you know? You have hundreds of muscles in your body, in fact, about 640. Your muscles make up almost half your body weight. Breathing. What do you do all the time, yet hardly ever think about? You breathe, in and out, all day and all night. This is because your body needs a gas called oxygen, which is in the air all around you. Breathing in, breathing out. As you breathe in, air flows into two spongy bags in your chest called lungs. Your lungs take in the oxygen from the air and release the waste carbon dioxide gas, which you breathe out. Your lungs are like two balloons that fill with air when you breathe in. Inhaler. People with an illness called asthma often need to use an inhaler to help them breathe more easily. Air. You need to breathe air all the time. So if you swim underwater, you either have to hold your breath or breathe through a tube called a snorkel. Snorkel. Voice box. When you talk, sing, or shout, you use your voice box. Air coming up the windpipe from your lungs shakes the voice box to make the sounds. Opera singers train their voices so they can sing loudly. The lungs. You normally breathe in and out through your nose. As you breathe in, the ribs in your chest move upward and outward. Air passes down your windpipe and fills up your lungs. When you breathe out, your chest moves downward and inward, pushing the air out of your lungs. Windpipe. Lungs. Lungs full. Breathing in. Lungs empty. Breathing out. Blood. Blood flows all around your body. Pumped by the heart, it never stops moving. Its main job is to carry oxygen, and the special substances called nutrients from food, all around your body. Blood vessels. Blood vessels are the tubes that carry blood all around the body. Arteries are blood vessels carrying blood with fresh oxygen. Veins carry blood containing waste carbon dioxide. Heart. Artery. Vein. Testing blood. Sometimes when you are sick, a nurse may take a few drops of your blood for a test. Blood often carries germs or other signs of illness that can help a doctor understand why you are unwell. The heart. The heart is a large muscle. It works like a pump, sucking blood in and then pushing it out. The left side of the heart pumps the blood around the body. The right side of the heart pumps the blood around the lungs. Muscle. Blood flows in here from the body. Blood flows in here from the lungs. This artery takes blood to the lungs. This artery takes blood to the body. Stopping the flow. When you cut yourself, you bleed. The blood helps to clean the wound as it flows out of the cut. Then special parts of the blood called platelets stick together to quickly stop the bleeding and form a scab. Healthy heart. The heart is a muscle, so one way to keep it healthy and strong is to do any kind of exercise that makes it beat faster. When you are resting, your heart beats about 60 to 90 times a minute. But when you play a sport, it can beat twice as fast. Eating and drinking. Your body needs food and water to work properly. Food contains special substances called nutrients. These give you energy and help your body grow and repair itself. Why do you eat? Food gives you more than just the energy to keep you going. It also contains vitamins and minerals. These are special nutrients that keep you healthy. That is why you need to eat lots of different types of food. Lots of water. Nearly 2/3 of your body is made up of water. So you need to drink plenty of water every day. Some food also contains lots of water, especially fruit and vegetables, such as melons and carrots. If you get very hot, your body sweats to cool down. Sweat is mostly water. So if you sweat, you need to drink more. Where does food go? After you have swallowed your food, it goes down a long tube, called the gullet, to your stomach. Here special juices take all the goodness out of it. The parts your body can't use are then passed through more tubes, called the intestine, to your rectum, throat, gullet, liver, stomach, large intestine, small intestine, bladder, rectum. How many teeth? Young children usually grow 20 teeth. From the age of about 6 years these first teeth fall out, and a new set of 32 adult teeth grows. Teeth need brushing every day to keep them healthy and clean. On the potty. When you need to get rid of waste food and water, you go to the toilet. Babies can't control when they go, so they wear diapers. Young children who are too small to use the toilet use a potty. Did you know? If you could take all the water out of an adult human body, it would fill half a bathtub. Seeing and hearing. You have 5 senses. These are sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. Sight and hearing are perhaps the most important. They allow you to see the world around you, and hear what's going on. Wide open. Light enters the eye through a hole called the pupil. The colored part around it is called the iris. In normal light the pupil is quite small, left. In poor light the pupil gets bigger, right, so that more light is let in. Iris. Pupil. Too much noise. Your ears hear all kinds of sounds, from a quiet whisper to a huge crack of thunder. But some sounds, such as very loud music, can damage our hearing. High-pitched. Your ears can hear a wide range of sounds, from the very low to the very high. But, as people get older, they find it harder to hear the highest sounds. Most adults can't hear the high-pitched squeaks of bats, but most children can. Inside the eye. As light enters the pupil, a lens, just like the lens on a pair of glasses, focuses the light. This makes what you see nice and clear. The eye then sends this picture along the optic nerve to your brain. Muscle. Lens. Pupil. Iris. Optic nerve. Inside the ear. Sounds hit a piece of skin in the ear called the eardrum. They then travel through 3 tiny ear bones to a snail-shaped part of the ear called the cochlea. From here the sounds travel along nerves to your brain. Ear bones. Eardrum. Semicircular canal. Cochlea. Did you know? Your ears actually help you to ride a bike. This is because parts of the ear called the semicircular canals have nothing to do with hearing. Instead they help you to balance. Smell and taste. Smell and taste tell you about the foods you eat. They can also warn you of danger. You can smell smoke from a house on fire, long before you feel the heat of the flames. You can taste when food is rotten before eating enough to give yourself a tummy ache. Your tongue's taste buds. Your tongue is covered in thousands of taste buds. These are like tiny taste detectors. Taste buds on different parts of the tongue recognize different kinds of taste. Bitter. Sweet. Salt. Sour. Wide open. Smell and taste often work together. When you bite into an apple, you recognize its taste at once. But if you shut your eyes and pinch your nose, so that you can't smell, you will not be able to tell an apple from a raw potato. If you have a bad cold, all your food can taste the same. Happy smells. Tiny parts of the things you smell float in the air around you. When these tiny parts enter your nose, your brain recognizes them as smells. Lovely smells, like flowers, make you feel happy. Sweet and sour. Young people usually prefer sweet tastes such as chocolate. As we get older, our tastes change so that we prefer sour, bitter, and even very spicy tastes. Chocolate tastes sweet. Lemons taste sour. Nose for work. Some people use their noses in their jobs. The people who have to pick the best tasting tea, coffee, and wine use their sense of smell more than their sense of taste. People who make perfumes also need a good sense of smell. We call these people noses. Your brain. If you could see inside your head, then you might think that your brain isn't very exciting. It looks like pink-gray gelatin. But your brain is really quite amazing, because it controls your whole body. It's also where you think, have ideas, learn, and remember. Brain parts. Different parts of your brain do different jobs. The brain also has two sides. The left side controls the right side of your body, and the right side controls the left side of your body. This is where you think. This part works out what you hear. This part works out what your eyes see. This part works out what your skin touches. This part controls your muscles. Left-handed. Most people prefer to write or throw a ball with their right hand. We call them right-handed. But about 1% in 10 is left-handed. There are also more left-handed boys than girls. Pain. When you hurt yourself, your nervous system sends messages to the brain to tell it you are in pain. The brain makes you feel pain to warn you that there's a problem. Problem solving. To play a game like chess, you use your brain in lots of ways. You have to learn and remember how to move the pieces. Then you have to work out what will happen next when you make a move. Learning. To learn you need to remember things. Your brain can store and find things more quickly than the biggest computer. To play music you have to remember what the notes mean and where to put your fingers to play them. Did you know? As you grow up to become an adult, your body grows about 20 times bigger. But your brain only gets 4 times bigger. Babies and growing up. When a baby is born, we think that it has just started its life. But it has already been growing for 9 months inside its mother. The baby grows into a child, then a teenager, and finally an adult. Before birth. A baby starts its life as a tiny speck, as small as the dot on this eye. Over many weeks, its body takes shape. The baby grows inside its mother's body, in a special part called the womb. Young children. Young children grow and learn very quickly. Most children can ride a bike, and read and write, by the time they are 8 years old. Teenagers. Teenagers go through a stage known as puberty. This is when their bodies change to become more like those of adults. By the time they reach 20 they will stop growing. Adults. Today more people are living long and healthy lives. Women usually live longer than men, but lots of people live for 70 years or more. In 2006 the oldest person alive was 116-year-old Elizabeth Bolden from the USA. Twins. When 2 babies are born at the same time we call them twins. Some twins are so similar in appearance that it can be hard to tell them apart. We call them identical twins. Staying well. There are many ways you can stay fit and keep healthy. What you eat is very important. So are exercise and playing sports and games. Exercise. Exercise is good for you. You can play games like skipping, catching, or football, or run, dance, or swim. Exercise keeps your heart fit and your muscles strong. Exercise even helps your brain. It can relax you and make you feel good. Fresh food. The right kind of food is very important to keep your body healthy. Fresh vegetables and fruit are especially good for health because they are full of vitamins and minerals. Keeping safe. Almost everything we do has risks. But we can stay safe by taking care. Always stop, look, and listen carefully before crossing a road. And if you are bicycling, skateboarding, or rollerblading, a helmet will protect you in case you fall over. Too big. If you eat too much food, and do not exercise very much, you will get fat. Being overweight is bad for your heart and puts extra strain on your joints. Sleep. Sleep allows your body to rest and your brain to sort out everything you have learned during the day. There are two kinds of sleep, deep sleep and light sleep. It is during light sleep that you dream. Did you know? The number of hours you need to sleep gets smaller as you get older. Babies need up to 20 hours of sleep a day. Young children need about 10. Most adults sleep for 7 or 8 hours. Doctors and medicines. Most people are well for most of the time. But sometimes people catch germs that make them feel ill. Or they can suffer an injury like a cut or bruise, or even a broken bone. Hospital. Sometimes people have to go to the hospital. Doctors and nurses take care of them, helped by all kinds of machines and medicine. New ways to make us better are being discovered all the time. Examination. When you are sick, the doctor's job is to find out what is wrong with you. The doctor may listen to your heart using a stethoscope. Stethoscope. Medicines. There are lots of medicines for all kinds of illnesses. Some medicine can be bought from a drugstore or supermarket. Others may only be given, or prescribed, by a doctor. Different doctors. Depending on what is wrong with us, there are lots of different doctors who can help. Some doctors will give us medicine. Others do operations or fix broken bones. Dentists take care of our teeth, and opticians look after our eyes. Hospitals have all kinds of doctors and nursing staff to help make sick people better. X-ray vision. With an X-ray machine, doctors can see all the bones inside your body. This helps them see problems such as a broken bone or a damaged joint. Science. Science is about understanding the world around us. By finding out how animals and plants live and grow, scientists can help farmers produce more food, and doctors cure diseases. Scientists investigate what things are made of, too. This helps us make useful new materials. Scientists also study the stars and planets, the weather, and even the rocks that make up the Earth. What is it made of? Every substance, material, and object in the universe is made up of tiny particles called atoms. There are just over 100 different kinds of atoms. Some substances, like gold, contain only one kind of atom, but others, such as plastic, contain atoms of several different kinds. Too small to see. A microscope magnifies things, makes them look larger. You can use it to look at the dust like pollen from a flower or the tiny grains of sand that make up a rock. But atoms are much too small to see, even with a microscope. Building with atoms. Atoms are like the building blocks of the universe. Just as toy blocks can be clipped together to make different shapes, tiny atoms join together in different ways to make all the things we see around us, including our own bodies. All mixed up. When you mix some substances together, you can't separate them again. For example, if you mix colored paints, you can't unmix them to get the original colors back. Blue, yellow, and red are called primary colors. You can use them to mix any color you like. Easy to separate. Some substances are easy to separate. If you add water to sand, you get a squishy mixture. But when sand dries out, you are left with just sand again. Clothes up close. Your clothes are made up of tiny threads, or fibers, which you can see magnified here. Some are natural fibers, like wool and cotton. Others, like nylon, are made from chemicals in factories. Energy. Energy is the ability to make things happen, move, or change. There are many kinds of energy, including light, heat, electricity, and sound. One kind of energy can also change into another. Energy for life. You need energy to run, jump, shout, breathe, and even think. All your energy comes from the food you eat. Your stomach breaks down the food to unlock the energy stored inside it. Energy from the sun. Heat from the sun warms the air, land, and sea. Plants use the energy in sunlight to make their own food. Sunlight can also be turned into electricity using solar panels. This car has solar panels that make electricity to drive its wheels. Food energy. Sugary foods gives us instant energy. Starchy foods, such as pasta, bread, and rice, release their energy more slowly, and keep us going for a longer time. Movement energy. Things that move very fast, such as the wind, have a lot of energy. A wind turbine has propeller-like blades that turn in the wind. The turning blades drive a generator that produces electricity. Fuel energy. Fuels are energy-rich substances that we burn for light and heat, and to power machinery. Coal, oil, and gas are called fossil fuels. They formed millions of years ago from the remains of dead plants and animals. An oil rig pumps oil from under the ocean floor. Did you know? The sun's energy makes life on Earth possible. Heat and light take just over 8 minutes to travel from the sun's surface to the Earth. Solid, liquid, gas. Substances can exist in 3 different forms. Solids keep their shape and size. Liquids can flow and change shape, but they can't be squeezed smaller. Gases can flow and change shape. They can also be squeezed smaller or spread out bigger. Different water. Liquid water flows in rivers and oceans. Water also exists as solid ice, and as a gas called steam. From water to steam. When we heat water in a saucepan, bubbles of gas form in the water and escape as steam. The change from a liquid into a gas is called evaporation. When a gas cools and turns back into a liquid, this is called condensation. Floating on air. Air is a mixture of gases, such as nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. Some gases weigh less than the gases in air. This blimp is filled with a gas called helium. Helium is lighter than air, so the blimp floats. Blimps, also called airships, only need small engines because they are so light. Melt and freeze. If a solid is heated enough, it will turn into a liquid. This is called melting. A glass blower makes vases by blowing air into melted glass. When the glass cools, it becomes solid again. The glass is so hot it glows red. Heat makes it soft so it can be shaped. Did you know? If you squeeze a gas smaller, it gets hotter. This is why a bicycle pump becomes warm when you pump up a tire. Hot and cold. We use the word temperature to talk about how hot or cold something is. As an object gets warmer, its temperature rises. As it gets cooler, its temperature falls. Keeping warm. People who live in cold places wear several layers of thick clothing. Air trapped between the layers helps stop their bodies losing heat to the air. Traveling heat. Heat travels out from a campfire through the air to warm our bodies. Heat can travel through solid materials, too. When you put your hands around a cup of hot chocolate, you can feel the warmth of the drink it contains. Temperature scale. We measure how hot an object is with a thermometer. This has a temperature scale divided into units called degrees, usually degrees Fahrenheit, degree F, or degrees Celsius, degree C. A hot day is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. An ice cream is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, this is why it cools you down. An ice cream helps you cool off on a hot day. What temperature is it? Water boils, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. Highest recorded air temperature on Earth, 136 degrees Fahrenheit, 58 degrees Celsius. Human body, 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. Water freezes, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. Desert extremes. By day, deserts are scorched by the burning sunshine. At night, because there is no cloud cover, temperatures can plunge to below freezing. Light and color. We can see objects because light bounces, or reflects, off them and enters our eyes. The most important light source is the sun. Sunlight looks white, but it is really made up of many different colors. Objects look colored because they only reflect some of the colors in sunlight. Rainbow colors. When the sun comes out during a shower of rain, you might see a rainbow. As sunlight shines through small drops of rain in the sky, the raindrops split the white sunlight into its many colors. Single rainbows are always red on the outside, or top, of their arc. Did you know? We often say there are 7 colors in the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. But these are just the most obvious ones. In fact, a rainbow contains millions of different colors. Making our own light. At night and in dark places such as caves, we have to make our own light. In the past, people used candles, fires, and oil lamps to see in the dark. Now we have electric light bulbs in our homes, electric street lights, and battery-powered flashlights. Color changers. Colored lights can change the way something looks to us. Even though we know that a banana is yellow, under a blue light it reflects the light's color and looks blue. Mirror image. Smooth, shiny surfaces reflect light best of all. When you look into a mirror, a window, or the surface of calm water, you can see an image of yourself. This is called a reflection. This polar bear is investigating its reflection in the water. Sound. Sounds are made when objects move rapidly to and fro. This shaking movement is called vibration. Vibrations travel through the air like ripples through water. We hear sounds with our ears. Making music. Musical instruments have parts that vibrate to make sound. The strings of a guitar vibrate when you pluck them, and the skin on top of a drum vibrates when you hit it. When you blow into a recorder, the air inside it vibrates. Animal sounds. When you talk, you make sound inside your throat. Many animals make sounds in their throats, too. A leopard roars as a warning. A baby bird chirps to tell its parents it's hungry. Loud and soft. The harder you bang a drum, the louder the sound it makes. If a sound is too loud it can damage your ears. This is why people who work with noisy machines wear ear covers to protect their hearing. High and low. Some sounds are high or shrill, like a bird singing. We say that they have a high pitch. Other sounds are low and rumbling, like the boom of thunder. These sounds have a low pitch. A pan flute has long tubes for low notes, and short ones for high notes. Forces. A force is a push or a pull. When forces act in different directions, they can make an object move, stop, or change direction. They can also squeeze, squash, stretch, bend, or twist an object to change its shape. Riding force. You need force to ride a bicycle. The force of your feet pushing on the pedals pulls the chain around and turns the rear wheel. Your hands pull on the brake levers, while your arms pull on the handlebars to steer. Balanced forces. Sometimes two forces can balance each other. If two tug-of-war teams pull on the rope with the same force, neither one will move. In the end, usually one side gets weaker and is pulled along by the stronger team. Scary force. As a roller coaster races around a track doing loop-the-loop, a force keeps people pressed into their seats, like an invisible safety belt. This force is called centripetal force. Slowing force. A force called friction tries to slow down objects that slide past each other. There is less friction between smooth surfaces than rough ones. This is why it is easier to sled over smooth, slidey snow than over rough gravel. Did you know? A space rocket blasts off with 10 million times as much force as a family car going along the street. Down to earth. People often wish they could fly like birds. But we are kept on the ground by the Earth's gravity. This is a downward force that pulls on everything, even birds, which is why they must flap their wings to stay in the air. Falling fast. When skydivers jump out of a plane, they fall very fast. This is because gravity pulls them down to the ground. When their parachutes open, they catch the air, so the skydivers fall more slowly. Beating gravity. As a plane moves along the runway, the air rushing over its wings makes an upward force called lift. When lift is greater than the force of gravity, the plane takes off. Earth's gravity. Everything has gravity, including you. You pull on the Earth, just as the Earth pulls on you. But gravity depends on size. You are quite small, so your gravity is weak. The Earth is huge, so it has very strong gravity. Away from the Earth's gravity, out in space, everything floats as if it were weightless. Sliding down. The force of gravity is at work in the playground too. It's gravity that pulls you down a slide. The steeper the slide, the faster you go. Did you know? A rocket has to reach a certain speed to break free of the Earth's gravity and get into space. This speed is called escape velocity. It is 300 times faster than a car speeding along a highway. Floating and sinking. A huge steel ship, such as a cruise liner, resembles a small mountain. But why does the ship float, when the mountain would sink? The answer lies in the shape of the ship and the fact that it is full of air. Big but hollow. A mountain is solid rock. But a big ship isn't solid metal. It has a huge hull filled mostly with air. This large, hollow shape makes the ship light for its size, and allows it to float. This is known as buoyancy. Rubber ring. Air-filled armbands and rings work a little like a ship's hull. They also make you much bigger in the water, with hardly any extra weight. Floating air. The air inside a balloon is heated by a gas burner. The hot air is lighter than the cold air outside, so the balloon floats. Diving and surfacing. A submarine has ballast tanks to help it to dive underwater and rise to the surface. Filling the tanks with water makes the submarine heavier, so it sinks. Pumping air into the tanks makes the submarine lighter, so it floats. Full ballast tanks. Empty ballast tanks. Floating bottle. It's the air trapped in this glass bottle that keeps the bottle afloat. If the cork comes out and the bottle fills with water, it will sink. Electricity. Electricity is a kind of energy that flows through wires. We use electricity to give us light and heat, and to make machines work. Electricity can also be dangerous, it can even kill. Skilled work. People who make and mend electrical machines are called electricians and electrical engineers. They understand how to work safely with electricity. Power station. Most of the electricity used in homes, factories, and offices is produced in power stations. The electricity flows along thick cables, wires, carried underground or by tall towers called pylons. Pylon. Power station. Power cable. How electricity is made. 1. Most power stations make electricity from fuels, such as gas, oil, or coal. 2. The gas, oil, or coal is burned to produce steam. The steam is used to drive generators. 3. The generators make electricity, which is carried by cables to our homes and factories. 4. In our homes we use electricity for heat, light, cooking, and watching TV. Battery power. Batteries are small supplies of electricity that you can carry around. Inside them are chemicals that work together to produce electricity. Batteries power things such as portable game consoles and flashlights. Switched on. Electricity is so useful because it can travel from place to place along wires, and we can switch it on and off. It can power tools such as drills, sanders, and saws. Welders use the heat from a spark of electricity to join metals together. Magnets. A magnet creates a special force called magnetism. Magnets can attract, pull toward, and repel, push away, each other. They also attract some metals. Switched-on magnets. Some magnets are made from wire coiled around a piece of iron. These are called electromagnets. When electricity flows through the wire, the iron becomes a strong magnet. Electromagnets are used to lift scrap iron. Crane. Electromagnet. Is it magnetic? Magnets come in many different shapes, such as bars, horseshoes, and rings. All magnets attract the metal iron, so we say that iron is magnetic. A refrigerator door is made of steel, which is mostly iron. That is why a magnet will stick to it. Cars, paper clips, and some food cans are also magnetic, because they are made of steel. Giant magnet. The whole Earth is like a giant magnet. Because of this we can find our way using a magnetic compass. This has a magnetized needle that always lines up to point north-south. Attract or repel. A magnet's magnetism is strongest at two ends, known as its north pole, N, and its south pole, S. If two magnets are placed with different poles facing each other, they will pull together. If two poles of the same kind are lined up, they will push apart. Unlike poles attract. Like poles repel. Magnets everywhere. Every day we use magnets without knowing. Anything with an electric motor, such as this remote-controlled model car, has magnets inside the motor. The electricity and magnetism work together to make the motor turn. Motor. Magnet. Materials. Choosing the right material for a job is very important. If you want a cup to drink out of, it has to be waterproof. If you want to build a house, you have to choose materials that are strong, like bricks or steel. Strong. Your body is held up by a skeleton of strong bones. A skyscraper has a skeleton of long beams, made of the metal called steel. Steel is strong enough to hold the building up without bending or breaking. Tall buildings and bridges are often held up by large steel beams called girders. Squashy and stretchy. Some materials, such as a sponge or a bouncy trampoline, can be squashed or stretched. When you let go, they will quickly spring back into shape. Tough and colorful. There are hundreds of different plastics. Plastic is a very useful material, because it can be molded into any shape. It also lasts for a long time and isn't harmed by the weather. This is why it is often used to make playground equipment. Baked hard. Pots, plates, and cups are made from materials called ceramics. These materials are shaped while they are soft and floppy. Then they are baked in an oven to make them hard. Did you know? Many materials can be recycled, or used again. They include glass, metal, paper, and plastic. This helps the environment because less trash ends up in garbage dumps. Machines and gadgets. We build machines and gadgets to help us do things. Some machines, like a bottle opener, are quite simple. Others, like a jumbo jet, which has over 6 million parts, are amazingly complicated. Some machines, like jet skis, only really help us enjoy ourselves. Gadgets are usually little devices that do something to help you. Many gadgets, such as cell phones, can be both useful and a lot of fun. Simple machines. Machines make it easier for us to do things, or help us do things we could not do at all. Some of the most useful machines, like ramps, levers, and wheels, are also really simple. Ramps. Ramps are sometimes used instead of stairs or escalators. They help people move from one level to another. They are useful for people with wheelchairs or luggage. Gears. Gears are the toothed wheels that your bicycle chain wraps around. Usually there is one big gear wheel attached to the pedals, and one or more smaller gear wheels attached to the back wheel. Having gears of different sizes at the back makes it easier for you to ride your bicycle up and down hills. Chain. Teeth. Rear gears. Front gear. Wheels. Wheels help us move or carry heavy loads. Some wheels are tiny. Others are over 10 feet high. Bigger wheels make it easier for heavy trucks to travel over rough ground without getting stuck in the mud. Screws and propellers. The screw is a simple machine. As you turn a wood screw with a screwdriver, it pulls its way into the wood. A ship's propeller is also a kind of screw. But it pushes, instead of pulls, the ship through the water. Levers. A lever can help us lift things that would usually be too heavy for us. The seesaw is a lever that allows you to lift your partner into the air. To use a lever you have to rest it on something. The point where it rests is called the fulcrum. In the home. Kitchens have lots of machines and gadgets. They help us prepare and cook our food. We also use machines to keep our house and clothes clean. Most machines are powered by electricity. Vacuum cleaners. Vacuum cleaners use an electric motor to create powerful suction. The suction pulls the dirt and dust into the cleaner. Dust and dirt are sucked up into this container. This vacuum cleaner has a big ball instead of wheels to make it easier to push. Washing machines. Washing machines have a large drum that is turned by a big electric motor. Holes in the drum let the water in and out to wash the clothes. When it is washing, the drum turns backward and forward quite slowly. Drum. Did you know? Over 100 years ago there was no electricity. People worked all their machines by hand. Imagine life without a washing machine and vacuum cleaner. Food processors. Food processors can prepare vegetables or mix ingredients much faster than you can do by hand. They have an electric motor that turns a spindle very fast. Sharp blades, for chopping, or whisks, for mixing, can then be fitted to the spindle. Food is put in here. Spindle. Electric motor. Drive belt. Chopping blade. 2-in-1. A manual can opener is two machines in one. The lever part pushes the blade onto the can. The blade cuts a long hole around the top of the can. High-speed juicers. Juicers have very powerful motors. Blades chop and shred the fruit or vegetables into a soft mushy mixture called pulp. The pulp is then pushed through a sieve to squeeze out all the juice. Tools for the job. Whatever the job, from drilling a hole to making a baseball bat, there is a tool that is made to do it. Many tools are powered by electric motors, but a few still need muscle power. Flying sparks. A grinder has a hard spinning disc that can be used to smooth, shape, or cut things. When it grinds metal, sparks and sharp pieces of metal fly in all directions. Lathes. A lathe is a special machine for making shapes out of wood or metal. Baseball bats, candlesticks, and bolts can be made with a lathe. To make a bat, the wood is held at one end of the lathe and spun around. A cutting tool is then held against the wood to shape it. Inside an electric drill. An electric drill has a powerful motor inside. The drill bit is the part that makes the hole. It has a sharp tip and a spiral groove to carry away the material being drilled off. The bit is held tightly in metal jaws called the chuck. Trigger switch. Rechargeable batteries. Electric motor. Chuck. Drill bit. Did you know? The fastest drills can spin around more than 1,000 times every second. That is 60,000 times a minute. Small but sharp. A saw has small, sharp teeth. The teeth are bent alternately to each side, first one way, then the other. This makes the saw cut a wide slot, and stops it getting stuck. Saw teeth. On the farm. Farms once employed lots of people to work on the land and look after the animals. Today big machines do many of the jobs people once did. And as farms have become bigger, so have the machines. Plowing time. Plows are like big curved shovels that dig and turn over the soil at the same time. They are pulled by big tractors with powerful engines. Plowing helps bury weeds and let air into the soil. Plow. Milking machine. When cows were milked by hand, the job used to take all morning. Today milking machines can milk a whole herd of cows in less than an hour. Spraying apples. Helicopters and airplanes are sometimes used to spray crops to keep them healthy. But many farmers are trying not to use so many chemicals and to grow crops more naturally. This is called organic farming. Combine harvester. A combine harvester does several jobs. First it cuts the wheat. Then it threshes it to separate the grain from the waste straw. The waste is thrown out the back as the combine moves along. The grain is stored until it can be unloaded, when it is pushed through a long tube into a trailer. Cab. Cutter. The grain is separated from the waste here. Waste straw comes out of here. Grain tube for unloading. The grain is stored here. In the factory. A factory is a big building filled with machines. Some factories are used for making things, such as paper or metal. In other factories, things are put together, such as cars or computers. Faster and faster. New ideas and better machines mean that factories can make more things each year, and make them faster. Some factories make 5 million bottles of drink every day. Robots. A robot is a machine that can do a job or task all by itself. But it still needs a person to tell it how to do the job the first time. Once a robot knows how to do something, it will do it exactly the same way every time. And it doesn't get tired like people. Robot welding machine. Assembly line. On an assembly line lots of workers or machines each do a part of a job. They each help to put together, or assemble, things that move along beside them on a conveyor belt. At the end of the line, the product is complete. Conveyor belt. Printing press. Newspapers, magazines, and books are printed on huge machines called presses. The paper is fed into the presses from enormous rolls. Super clean. Computers have tiny parts that must be kept free of dirt or dust. Computer factories are often as clean as hospitals. The workers even wear hats and masks. At the building site. Long ago, people put up buildings using their own muscles and a few simple tools. Today a building site is full of huge, powerful machines. With their help, a tall skyscraper can be built in just 3 months. Lifting. A tower crane lifts heavy loads around the building site. As the building gets taller, extra parts have to be added to the crane's tower, so it gets taller, too. The crane operator sits high up in a little cabin. Flattening. A bulldozer uses its big blade to push huge piles of soil and flatten the ground. It moves along slowly on big metal caterpillar tracks. Bulldozer blade. Mixing. A mixer stirs together water, cement, sand, and small stones to make concrete. The concrete sets, or goes hard, in a few hours, and lasts for 100 years or more. Excavator. An excavator, also called a 360, digs holes in the ground. These are filled with concrete to form the base of a building. It also digs trenches for pipes and wires, and fills them in again afterward. Caterpillar tracks help diggers and bulldozers move over rough or muddy ground. On the road. Our roads are busy with machines we call vehicles. There are cars, motorcycles, trucks, and buses. They take people, loads, and cargo from one place to another. Electric cars. Most cars have gas or diesel engines. An electric car has big batteries that power an electric motor. It is quiet and wastes less energy than a gas-engined car. This electric car is not only quiet and clean, it also goes very fast. Did you know? There are around 1 billion cars in the world. 10 new ones are made every second. Bendy buses. Bendy buses are like 2 buses joined together. They can carry more people around crowded cities, and they only need 1 driver. On 2 wheels. A motorcycle is small and fast. But it can only carry 1 or 2 people. Some racing cycles can travel at over 180 miles an hour. Tractor-trailer trucks. The biggest trucks are articulated, which means that they have a separate cab and engine at the front, called a tractor, and a big load-carrying trailer at the back. Tractor. Trailer. Going by train. Trains run on metal railway lines called tracks. Passenger trains stop at stations so people can get on and off. Freight trains carry all kinds of loads, from coal and sand, to mail and cars. Bullet trains. Japan has some of the fastest trains in the world. Known as bullet trains, they can travel at speeds of nearly 185 miles an hour. Bullet train. Signals and points. Where a road crosses a railway line, there is usually a barrier and lights to warn drivers when a train is coming. Trains can change onto a different track at special places called points. The rails slide sideways to join another line and make the train change direction. Only 1 rail. Trains that have just 1 rail in the middle are called monorails. These trains are usually found in cities, airports, and docks. Overhead wires. Some electric trains have motors at both ends, and even in the middle. These motors get their electricity from overhead wires that the train touches as it travels along. Power cables. Did you know? Trains called maglevs use magnetism to float above, and glide along, a single track. Some maglevs can go faster than 300 miles an hour. In the air. The quickest way to travel a long way is to fly. In less than a day you can fly to the other side of the world. You begin and end your flight at an airport where the planes take off and land. Lots of people. The biggest jumbo jets carry more than 500 people, as well as all their luggage. They can also carry enough fuel to fly halfway around the world without stopping. The Airbus A380 is the largest passenger plane in the world. It can carry up to 840 passengers. Hover. Helicopters can take off and land without a runway. They can also hover, or stay still in one place, in the sky. This makes them useful for all kinds of jobs, including firefighting and rescuing people from the sea. This fire department helicopter is dropping water on a forest fire. Skillful flying. Display pilots fly their planes very close together and do tricks such as spinning and flying upside down. They also fly big circles called looping the loop. The display team of the U.S. Navy is called the Blue Angels. How wings work. To take off, a plane has to speed along the runway. As it moves, the teardrop shape of its wings forces air to move faster over the top of the wing than under it. This creates suction above the wing that lifts the plane up into the air. Wing. Fast-moving airlift wing up. At the controls. The pilot flies the plane from the cockpit. In the cockpit of a big passenger plane there are hundreds of dials, lights, screens, and controls. A powerful computer called the automatic pilot helps the pilot to fly the plane safely. On the ocean. On the ocean, ships and boats must travel carefully. There are no signs to follow and the weather can make the water rough and dangerous. Ships use radios or satellites in space to guide them. Jet skis. Jet skis are like jet-powered motorcycles you ride on water. They have powerful engines that suck in water and then squirt it out behind in a powerful jet. This pushes the jet ski along at high speed. Supertankers. The largest boats ever built are called supertankers. They carry oil across the great oceans of the world. They are so big that they take 20 minutes to stop and need about 1¼ miles of open water to turn around in. Hydrofoils. Hydrofoils are boats that can rise up out of the water on special wings called foils. When moving slowly the hydrofoil looks like an ordinary boat. But as it goes faster it rises up onto its foils. It can then go even faster. At high speed the hydrofoil rises out of the water. Foils. Blown along. Sailboats are blown along by the wind. If the wind is very strong the sailboat sometimes leans right over. As the wind changes direction, the people or crew pull ropes to change the direction of the sails to catch the wind. This large sail is called a spinnaker. Did you know? Frenchman Bruno Perrin holds the record for the fastest anyone has ever sailed around the world. He did it in just over 50 days. Having fun. Many exciting machines are found at carnivals and amusement parks. They make us shout and scream with excitement and fear, but really we know that we are safe. Spinning slowly. The Ferris wheel turns slowly and steadily. The cars tilt using hinges, so they always swing upright, even when they are at the top. Did you know? The biggest Ferris wheel in the world is in Japan. It is 330 feet tall, carries 380 people, and takes 16 minutes to go around. High-speed thrills. Most roller coasters have gears underneath the cars that fit into a row of teeth in the track. These pull the cars to the top of the ride. The higher they go, the faster they come down. Indoor skydiving. An indoor skydiving machine uses an incredibly powerful fan to blast air up through a vent in the floor. You can experience the thrill of flying while only 4 feet above the ground. Pulling along. The cable car hangs from a thick wire, or cable, in one long loop that goes around and around. It is turned at each end by wheels called pulleys. Cable. Cable cars are used for taking people up and down mountains. Electronic gadgets. Gadgets are little machines that usually do something useful or fun. These days most gadgets are electronic, like portable music players, clever cell phones, or computer-controlled toys. Portable music. Portable music players allow you to listen to music anywhere. By first compressing, or squashing, the music on a computer, you can squeeze lots of songs onto even the tiniest of portable players. Portable music players are sometimes called MP3 players. Cell phones. Some cell phones now do much more than just let you make telephone calls or send text messages. They can receive TV programs, take pictures, play music, and even surf the internet. Internet. Music. Television. Photos. High-tech toys. Many modern toys are packed with technology. This robot has a computer for a brain. It can be controlled without wires and can even see where it is going using special sensors for eyes. Game machines. Some portable game consoles can do more than just play great games. They can also play music and show movies. The computer. You can do so many things on a computer. It is possible to do simple things like write a story, but you can also store music and photos, watch a DVD, or find things out on the internet. Space. The world where we live is called planet Earth. It is huge. To walk around it without stopping would take you 2 years. But if you were far away in space, the Earth would look like a small blue disk the size of this O. The Earth is one of a group of planets that circle a star we call the Sun. It is the light and warmth from the sun that has helped life develop on Earth. So far we have not managed to find life anywhere else. Solar System. The Earth is one of a group of planets that circle around the Sun. There are 8 large planets, and a number of smaller ones, including Pluto. Together they are part of what is called the Solar System. The Sun. The Sun is the star at the center of our solar system. It is a huge ball of burning gas, about 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth. Without its heat and light, there would be no life on Earth. Sun. The planets. All the planets travel around the Sun. The paths they follow are called orbits. Some orbits are round, others are slightly egg-shaped. The Earth takes a year to go right around the Sun. Mercury, which is much closer, only takes 87 days. Eris is so far away from the Sun that it takes 557 years to go all the way around. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Eris. Comet tails. A comet is a chunk of ice and dust. When it passes near the Sun, some of its ice turns to gas and forms a long tail that glows in the night sky. In 1996 the probe Ulysses found that the tail of comet Hyakutake was 350 million miles long. Probe. Comet. Sun. Exploring the night sky. Many of the planets in the solar system can be seen in the night sky. To your eyes they look just like bright stars. But if you look through a pair of binoculars, or a telescope, they appear like tiny disks. You may even be able to see Saturn's rings. You look through the telescope here. Astronomical telescope. This small telescope is used to help aim the big one. The Moon. A moon is a big ball of rock that goes around a planet. Most of the planets in the solar system have moons. Jupiter has over 60. But the Earth has just one. The Moon's surface. The Moon's surface is made up of hills and dusty plains, known as seas. Everywhere there are bowl-shaped holes called craters. These were made when huge rocks, or meteors, crashed into the Moon. This dark area is called a sea. Why the Moon changes shape? The Moon shines because it reflects the light of the Sun that shines on it. As the Moon moves around the Earth it seems to change shape, because we only see the part of it lit by the Sun. When the Moon is between the Earth and the Sun, you can't see it. This is called a new moon. Sunlight. Earth. New moon. Full moon. Half moon. Less gravity. The Moon is dry and rocky. It has no air to breathe. Because it has less gravity, you could jump 6 times higher on the Moon than you could on Earth. Moon landing. Only 12 people have ever walked on the Moon. Astronaut Neil Armstrong was the first when he stepped onto the Moon in 1969. He flew there in a spacecraft called Apollo 11. Did you know? The Moon is much smaller than the Earth. You could fit 50 moons inside the Earth. The Sun. When we look into the night sky we see lots of tiny twinkling stars. During the day, a much bigger star gives our world light and heat. This is the Sun. It seems so huge because it is much closer to the Earth than any other star. Studying the Sun. This spacecraft, called Ulysses, was launched in 1990 to study the Sun. It is still out in space, telling us more about the Sun every day. Flames, called prominences, leap from the Sun's surface. At 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the Sun is 30 times hotter than a kitchen oven. The Sun is made up of the gases hydrogen and helium. Solar eclipse. Sometimes the Moon moves in front of the Sun during the day. When it blots out all the Sun's light we call it a total eclipse. When it just covers part of the Sun, we call it a partial eclipse. Earth. Moon. Sun. Total eclipse seen here. Shadow of the Moon. Too bright. You should never look directly at the Sun. It is so bright it would damage your eyes. To look at an eclipse you need to wear special glasses. Scientists look at the Sun by projecting its image onto a screen. Total eclipse. The rocky planets. The nearest planet to us is Venus. Mars and Mercury are also quite close. Like the Earth, these planets are huge balls of rock, but they are all smaller than the Earth. Mercury. Mercury is 20 times smaller than the Earth. It is also 3 times closer to the Sun than we are. This makes its surface as hot as a gas fire. It is also covered in craters, so it looks a little like our Moon. Mercury. Mars. Mars is about half the size of the Earth and covered in red soil, dust, and rocks. Its biggest mountain, Mount Olympus, is 3 times bigger than the highest mountain on Earth. Mars. Did you know? When astronomers first studied Mars, they thought they could see canals on its surface. But when the first spacecraft went to Mars, they found nothing but dry, rocky plains. Venus. Venus is only slightly smaller than the Earth and is covered in thick clouds of poisonous acid. Beneath these clouds the surface is hot and rocky. Venus. The Mayat Mons volcano on Venus is 5 miles high. Robots on Mars. Although nobody has ever been to Mars, lots of robots have. These machines, called rovers, have 6 wheels, and cameras for eyes. They can study rocks and soil, and do experiments. Cameras. Radio aerial to send messages back to Earth. Solar panels turn sunlight into electricity. Tool for examining samples of rock. The gas planets. The gas planets are hundreds of times bigger than the Earth, and very different. A little like a snowball with a stone in its middle, each one of these planets is a huge ball of gas squashed together around a small rocky core. Uranus. Uranus looks like a smooth blue-green ball. It is about 4 times wider than the Earth. It is different from all the other planets because it spins on its side. It also has some rings of dust and ice, like those of Saturn, only thinner. Uranus. Rings. Saturn. The second biggest planet is Saturn. It has beautiful shining rings. These are made of small bits of ice and dust. Saturn also has lots of moons. We know a lot about Saturn thanks to the exploratory spacecraft, or probe, Cassini, which began orbiting the planet in 2005. Cassini. Saturn. Did you know? Saturn has 56 moons. Its largest one, Titan, is the only moon in the solar system to have a thick atmosphere. Jupiter. Jupiter is so big it could hold more than 1,000 Earths. It has a huge red circle on its surface called the Great Red Spot. This is actually a giant storm that is twice as wide as the Earth. Great Red Spot. Jupiter. Neptune. Neptune is mainly dark blue, with a few darker spots and brighter clouds. It has the strongest winds of any planet. They blow 4 times faster than the winds on the Earth. Neptune. Dwarf planets and meteors. As well as the larger planets of the solar system, there are also a number of smaller worlds that astronomers call dwarf planets. These include Pluto and Eris. Distant Pluto. Pluto is a small, cold planet right at the edge of the solar system. Its moon, Charon, is so big it is now thought to be a dwarf planet just like Pluto. Pluto. New Horizons. In 2006 the New Horizons probe was sent to Pluto on a 10-year mission to find out more about this distant planet. New Horizons probe. An Atlas V rocket blasts off, carrying the New Horizons spacecraft. Meteorite. When a space rock hits the ground it is called a meteorite. The Hoba meteorite is the largest ever found. It is nearly 10 feet wide and weighs over 60 tons. It landed in Namibia, Africa. Meteors. When tiny pieces of dust from comets hit the Earth's atmosphere, they get so hot they glow and burn up. Then they streak across the sky like fireworks, and are called meteors, or shooting stars. Eris and Dysnomia. Slightly larger than Pluto, Eris is the latest planet to be discovered. It was only given its name in 2006. It has one large moon called Dysnomia. Arizona crater. In Arizona, there is a huge bowl-shaped hole in the ground. It is 4,000 feet wide and 560 feet deep. It was made over 50,000 years ago, when a huge meteorite crashed into the ground. Stars and galaxies. The nearest star to the Earth is the Sun. All the other stars look like tiny points of light because they are so far away. Many are actually much bigger than our Sun. The life of a star. Although stars are just huge balls of burning gas, they are born, grow, and die just like living things. The star then burns steadily for about 10 billion years. As the star begins to run out of gas, it expands to become a red giant. Some red giants do not explode, but slowly shrink to become stars called white dwarfs. Some red giants continue to expand and then explode. This is called supernova. A supernova is the biggest explosion in our galaxy. After a star explodes, the remains may shrink to almost nothing, forming a tight ball of gas. This has such enormous gravity that even light can't escape from it. It is now called a black hole. Stars are born in huge clouds of gas that are called nebulae. Nebulae are sometimes called star nurseries. How many stars? Looking up at the night sky, it seems as if there are millions of stars twinkling in the darkness. Nobody knows how many there really are. But without the help of a telescope, you can only see about 3,000. Galaxies. Giant groups of stars are called galaxies. There are billions of galaxies in the universe, but our solar system is in a galaxy called the Milky Way. Galaxies can be different shapes. This one is a spiral galaxy. Nebula. A nebula is a huge cloud of gas where stars begin to form. As the stars grow, the cloud begins to glow. Nebula. Seeing shapes in the stars. When people first looked at the stars, they made patterns out of them. We call these patterns constellations. Orion the Hunter. The Great Bear, or Plough. Telescopes. Galileo was the first person to study the night sky with a telescope. His telescope used lenses like those in a magnifying glass. It was very small. Today we study the sky with telescopes as big as houses. Radio telescopes. Telescopes with lenses or mirrors capture light from distant stars. But stars also send out radio waves. So astronomers have built telescopes to pick up the signals. These radio telescopes are like huge satellite dishes. They need to be big because the signals are so weak. Each one of these dishes is the size of a house. Hubble. The Hubble telescope is a satellite that looks out into space. It takes pictures of stars and planets that are clearer than those we can take on Earth. This is because it does not have to look through all the dusty air that surrounds the Earth. Eyes on the sky. The world's biggest light telescopes use mirrors rather than lenses. This is because it is easier to make big mirrors than lenses. These huge telescopes are on Mount Haleakala in Maui, Hawaii. Telescopes are often built on mountains because the air is cleaner. Telescope. Telescopes. Telescopes that have a big lens at one end, just like an eye, are called refractors. Telescopes that use a big mirror, instead of a lens, are called reflectors. Refractor telescope. Eyepiece. Lens. Reflector telescope. Mirror. Did you know? The biggest lens telescope in the world is at the Yerkes Observatory in Wisconsin, USA. This telescope has a huge glass lens that is 3 feet wide. Blast off! Hundreds of people and a few animals have been into space. They all went there by rocket. Only rockets have the power to escape the Earth's gravity. Launching a satellite. Rockets use a series of really powerful engines to blast them into space. When each engine has used up all its fuel, it falls back to the Earth. Some rockets have a big first stage engine, 1, a smaller second stage engine, 2, and a small booster engine, 3. Satellite. Moon rocket. The most powerful rocket ever built was the Saturn V. Standing over 330 feet tall, this was the rocket that carried the Apollo astronauts to the Moon. Saturn V rocket. Apollo spacecraft. Weightless. In space there is very little gravity, so you become weightless and float around. Astronauts have to get used to this feeling so they can move safely. They practice in a special airplane that flies up high in the sky, and then dives to Earth very quickly. Splashdown. Some of the spacecraft that have returned to Earth have landed in the sea. This is the way the Apollo astronauts returned from the Moon. Parachutes help slow the spacecraft down, but it still lands with a big splash. Did you know? The first person ever to go into space was the Russian Yuri Gagarin. He flew a Vostok rocket into orbit in 1961. The Space Shuttle. The Space Shuttle is part rocket, part airplane. It can blast off into space and then fly back to the Earth. A shuttle space flight. The shuttle blasts off like a rocket. 1. First its reusable boosters fall back to the Earth. 2. Then its fuel tank drops away. 3. The shuttle then usually spends up to 12 days in space. 4. Before gliding back to the Earth. As it flies through the Earth's atmosphere, it gets very hot. 5. It lands on an extra long runway. 6. Back to Earth. 5 space shuttles have been built and 3 are still in use. Each one carries a crew of 5 to 7 astronauts. The shuttle is designed for around 100 launches. The shuttle Discovery comes into land. Boosted into space. To break free of the Earth's gravity, the shuttle needs the help of 2 enormous solid fuel booster rockets. They return to Earth by parachute and can be reused. Cargo bay. Working in space. Once it is up in space, the shuttle opens the doors to its cargo bay. It can then unload its cargo, or catch broken satellites so the astronauts can mend them. Solid fuel booster rockets. Fuel tank. Did you know? The 5 space shuttles have all been named after famous ships. They are the Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, and Endeavour. Space probes and satellites. Space probes and satellites are small spacecraft that have special jobs to do. Some visit distant planets and moons. Others send television programs or watch the weather. Satellite launch. As the crane-like structures tip back, a Russian Soyuz rocket blasts off. This rocket is carrying the GLOVEA satellite. Its job is to help people on Earth find their way around using special map computers. This movable structure is used to service the rocket before blast-off. Mars probe. Each space probe has a special job to do. This probe was sent to Mars in 2005. It is now circling the planet trying to find out if Mars ever had a lot of water like Earth. If it did, there may have been life on Mars. Solar panels turn sunlight into electricity. Collecting samples. Planned for launch in a few years, this Mars probe is part of a project to collect samples of Martian soil and bring them back to Earth. It will be the first time rocks from another planet have been brought back to Earth. Ozone hole. Ozone is gas found high in the Earth's atmosphere. It helps protect us from the harmful rays of the sun. Recently, satellites spotted holes in the ozone layer above the poles. These have been caused by pollution. Ozone hole. In orbit. There are about 3,000 satellites up in the sky above the Earth, although only about 1,000 are still working. Some are fixed in one position. Others circle the poles or the equator. Did you know? Satellites near the Earth fly faster. They can fly right around the planet in just 90 minutes. Satellites farther away can take a day or even longer. Going into space. Will you ever go into space? So far most of the people who have gone into space have been trained astronauts. But soon it might be possible to take a vacation there, if you have enough money. Spaceship One. Launched from a special plane, called White Knight, Spaceship One blasted into space rather like the Space Shuttle. Soon tourists who want to see the stars could travel this way. Spaceship One. White Knight. Exercise. In space you are weightless. This means your muscles don't work as hard. So astronauts try to keep fit by exercising. Space suit. There is no air in space. It can also be either very cold or very hot. So astronauts must wear special space suits. These have their own air supply for the astronaut to breathe. They also help keep the astronaut at a comfortable temperature. Space station. Space stations are like several big tubes joined together. People can live and work in them for many months. Many parts of the International Space Station, along with its crew, have been carried into space by the shuttle. International Space Station. The end.